Hello, everybody, and welcome to I believe this is the 9th episode of the Wandering Thoughts podcast. Today, I have a good friend of mine, recent good friend of mine, but still a good friend of mine, and phenomenal human being, Phil from Sicklerville. That rhymes. I did not anticipate that. We both realized that we've got a lot of things that we haven't had a chance to discuss with each other. Variety of topics from religion to maybe COVID to politics, whatever comes up. So we figured, why not just sit down for a podcast episode and talk things out and just have fun. Like, the whole purpose of this podcast in the first place was to sit down, one person, two people, three people, friends, talking about life. And with God's blessing on this podcast, hopefully it'll be great. And hopefully this helps somebody out there, Phil, introduce yourself if you so desire.
So hey guys, I'm Phil. I am from Sicklerville. Me and Joe have just kind of been hanging out, man, just being able to do a lot of things, praying over people, praying over certain topics, and the big thing we just love to do is just talk and influence people. So I'm actually honored and happy to be here. And we were just having a ball yesterday with a lot of things going on, and we were like, you know what, we got to bring this to the podcast because we are ready. So I'm just excited to be here, man, and whatever flows. I just, was just thinking about different things. But how do you want to start this? When do you want to go with? So many directions.
I got a question immediately.
Okay.
So for the sake of everybody else, you said you wanted to influence people, and that was the thing we both had in common. Yeah. They all know what my desire is because I've said it before, but they don't know you. So what is this you want to influence people? What is it? Where is this coming from? Why do you want to do it?
That's true, yeah. So I would just say from a personal standpoint, when I look at the world, I just see a lot of chaos and I just see a lot of brokenness, and I feel like there needs to be a sense of mending and a sense of restoring. And one of my biggest things is just to influence or inspire people into action. And that can be in different lanes. One of the biggest things I'm able to do, I always like the one-on-one talks, like, when I had with you, Joe, or just with anybody else. I feel like people need that community. I feel like people need that sense of a one-on-one or a small group to where they're just talking life and they're being real, and being able to either talk with someone, laugh with someone, or counsel someone into life transformation is kind of where I'm going. And I'm all about media. I'm all about the arts. I'm all about just reaching like souls to souls, going to like spiritual realms, talking just social things, being funny, just being able to be outgoing, still trying to figure out where my lane is, but influencing people to more of a life transformation is huge. I want to be able to people to come on a podcast like this and just, going through their daily struggles or their daily, trials and tribulations. And they're just like, wow, I heard Joe today. I'm feeling good. So it's just one of those things. And I just, just hearing from him inspired me. So, but that's one of the big things I want to do is just inspire and influence people. And I feel like the medium is going to come soon. And I feel like where it's coming from and how I'm going to be doing that will be put into play. But honestly, I'm just having fun with it, man, and just trying to go with everybody else's medium and where they kind of speak from, and just enjoy and learn a lot from you and just from other people about it. And just, that's how I kind of get inspired and get, excited about these things. So, but yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, man. It's good.
So you've mentioned to me radio before. What do you think you prefer, radio or podcast? Like, to be on?
Yeah, it's interesting. So in 2021, we're all like, podcast, that's where you got to go. But, I think even too, I always enjoyed radio because obviously, just kind of being like a 90s kid growing up in the 90s, podcasts weren't really there yet. I even look even now to like on the internet, and whenever I look at like industries and I look at certain things, like TV and radio are there, but like streaming and podcasts are still trying to like break through the realm. I can just say I always just enjoyed radio. For some reason, I am just that weird kid who can just literally still put on the radio and hear different talks, whether it's sports, whether it's religion, whether it's just, people just talking about, social issues and things like that, to a degree, depending on how annoying they are or how they are. But it's just a joy, because I know even with radio, you even get like the sense of like an audience coming back at you and being able to ask questions. And I always like those ones to where it's a thinking thing. Like, I like comedy and I like the sense of like being animated. So that's always one thing, but always being able to think and just being able to open up people's minds are huge. So I feel like I'm a radio guy who is transitioning into a podcast guy. And I'm cool with that because low key, I feel like radio is dying. So it's like, I got to get with the podcast homies and just enjoy it. But I feel like that's what I'm kind of feeling, radio to podcast. Have you ever been within like the radio scene? Are you ever?
I haven't been.
Okay.
I've always been curious about it because growing up, I listen to the radio a lot. My
Right.
dad still, my way to get information is from podcasts, and his way is from talk shows, whether it's the preachers on the radio, whether it's the commentators or whatever. So it's interesting, that whole dynamic there, because he'll come home from work and be like, well, I heard this on the radio today, and I'm like, wow, okay then. It's such a stark contrast, because my dad is almost 70 and I'm just barely legally an adult, and then Phil here is like in between, like he's clearly 19. No, I'm just messing with you, dude. No,
Just about. Yeah.
I mean, you look good. I'm being honest. Like, you look like you work out. You look like you take care of yourself, which is kind of important, because I think if you're going to be an influencer, you have to be in a position where you're taking care of yourself. Because if you're influencing from a position where you're drunk or you're not sleeping well because of your own decisions, then how can you truly be an influencer?
Yeah, that is true. And for those who, because we may not have the video, but if you want to imagine what Phil looks like, picture like Terry Crews, 6-pack. No, I don't look like that. But that's just the idea of wanting it. But yeah, just even Joe was saying, like, taking care of yourself. It's just funny because, like, when you do it on an inward level, it comes out externally. And even for the sake, when you care about externally, it's coming from an inward level. So I agree 100%. And just being able to be someone who cares about not only just their image, and not even just, what they look like, but what they are trying to be like. I say an image bearer when you're mirroring what you really want to reflect, like inside, and just, who you are and those things. It's huge, man. So, I'm glad that, I was just telling Joe, the whole month of October, I didn't even go to the gym. All I did was like eat pizza, wings, cheesesteaks, any of the fattest foods in America, which is pretty much anything because it's America.
You're right.
I was just eating, and now I started to work out, but before I felt like crap. So if I would have came in October, I would have sounded like this. My stomach would have been flapping as Joe was talking. It would have been bad, but it was just, I'm just actually glad I'm able to get back to it. And even things like this, just knowing that, I got invited, for a podcast made me want to work out a little bit more, made me want to kind of make sure I was good. Even if we did have, had video or not, it was just about the presence and just about the respect that one can have. And I actually, I like that, because podcasts I have more respect for, because I know that it's newer. It's more for the sake that the influence is bigger than it is for radio. So I just have that drive when I'm on something like this to just really not only be my best, but to do my best and look my best coming in here. So yeah, man, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Right. You want to go ahead and turn the mic stand a little bit like this, like turn it like
this way.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's going to work better.
Okay.
It's your comfortability. So if that works better for you,
yeah,
great. If it doesn't, we can switch it back.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we get the optimal sound quality and comfortability out of this. Because for me, I'm just chilling over here in my chair with the boom mic.
Yeah, I wish you could see it. Yeah.
It's really sad because I only have one boom mic at the moment, boom arm. And Phil is like, how tall are you?
I'm hitting 6. I just hit 6.
You just hit 6 foot?
Yeah.
How did you just hit 6 foot? You're like 30 years old.
You know what? I didn't really just hit. Maybe it's more like I had it. My doctor, just a weird. I had a doctor who he told me for years. I think he was just trying to, make fun of me, but he would always tell me, hey, am I 6 foot, doc? And he's like, no, you're like 5'10". I come back, I'm 5'11", and then one time I came back, you're 5'9". I said, you're a liar. Okay, I need a new doctor. But yeah, it was just the fact that I am 6 foot. I actually never feel like I'm 6 foot, because whenever I'm with other people who are taller, maybe they're like 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", I feel like I'm 5'8". So I never really feel tall unless I'm around people who are just either average height or shorter. So. But yeah, I mean, it's comfortable. I was just kind of like moving my head from back to forth. I also have the Force from Star Wars, so I'm like a Jedi. So I'm kind of moving here and there. So, but no, man, I'm good. I am good. But yeah, if I was just to even ask you, man, like, what if I can even say, like, I'm thinking of like different things in my mind. Like, what is one thing you wake up and you're just kind of like, man, like that needs to change. And I know when I think of that, probably like a million things come through your head. But like, what is like that one thing that you want to, you see that it needs to be changed, and I feel like if you were either equipped a little bit more, or even maybe you are now, like, what would that be that you want to step up and be like, yeah, that has to change, even for you or for people in a situation, whatever it is that you've been in.
Right.
So.
That's a loaded question, because that opens a jar of worms. Well, one of the first things I always think of when I wake up is, how can I be... No, not how can I need to be intentional in my day. I need to be active. I need to be getting things done that I say I'm going to do. I need to be Unfortunately, perfect comes to mind way too often. Like that's a character flaw of mine is I'm a perfectionist, which means when it comes to getting things done, I'm like, well, if I don't get it perfect, I shouldn't do it at all. So I need to cut that out. But honestly, the main thing is being intentional with where I am, being present. Because a lot of the times when I'm doing anything, I'm just sitting back and I'm thinking about what I need to be doing, what I should be doing, all the shoulds and woulds and could be's, which then makes me feel depressed. I get distressed. I get anxious. And the path to healing doesn't start with being aloof from your life. Because if you're aloof from your life, you're out of touch with reality.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to be in touch with God and reality and the people around you and even your job if you're aloof from it. Because, that's kind of, honestly, I think that's what it is that I need to be working on.
Okay.
Just being active with what I'm doing and then being active with how I'm participating in life. Because when I go to work, I'm like halfway through, like at like 3 hours, I'm like, I'm ready to go home. I'm done. I'm done with work. I don't want to be here anymore. I'd rather go play video games. Because it's just easier for me, my brain, to relax. As long as something I noticed that I hadn't really realized, but this is the first time I've done something consistently for a longer period of time in like 4 years. So having the job, I'm on 4 months, and I think my brain just isn't used to it because it's stressed. It feels like it's an elastic band about to break.
Yeah.
Like it's like going to snap and fly forward. I don't know if flying forward's the good thing or not. Like if that'll just release me to be free to enjoy work, or if it'll be like mental breakdown, I got to quit, or I got to take like a month leave or something. I don't know which. I'm kind of terrified that it would be the second option because I've said before I had a terrible time back in October of last year, and I don't want to go back there.
Right.
But at the same time, I've had an issue with the podcast as well because it's like consistency means I have to do it consistently. And then when my brain does something consistently, it just like kind of like builds up and like a tension. And I don't know why it builds up that tension. So that ties into the whole stuff I got to be working on, because when I go to work, I'm like, work, I hate work. And then I come home and I'm like, video games. And I go to work the next day and I'm like, but yeah, it's a whole web of things I need to fix and want to be perfect about, that I also need to fix that thought. And yeah, if that long-winded answer answers your question.
It does. It definitely does. No, it's just a connection. Like, I just like how even, it's funny too, I'm looking at this book right here and I see a spider, and we were just talking about webs and just different things that were just connecting. But no, I hear you 100%. Even just speaking on being present, I know my job. So, I'll just tell you all, I'm doing delivery driving, and I made a stop at a certain spot where Joe was at, pretty much to say what's up to a few people and a few cool chicks that I know who pray for us. So it's awesome at a little prayer house. But I stopped there during my job, and when I came back from there, my boss asked me, hey, where were you at for an hour 15? And I told him, hey, I was at the prayer house, religious reasons, things like that. And he said, unacceptable. When you finish your route, come find me and come speak with me. And I was like, that means I'm fired. All you had to say was I'm terminated. But,
Right.
And even one of those things too, I'm not so fond of my day job either. And when he told me that, it's as if he hit me with a stack of $1 million because I was so happy to leave this place. Mm-hmm. Because that was one of the things I had issues with, was just, being present. And I even thought about it too. And, for others who are hearing this, like, just think about it, like, how present are you in your life, Like, it's just a simple fact to where when you go outside, are you seeing something that's happening? If something was to go down that was negative against someone who, you didn't know, who wasn't connected with you, are you tied? Are you like there? Are you present? Are you a bystander? Are you a participator? And like, I know for me, how, life is working, I'm hoping to change it. I just kind of go around, I just kind of slump through, activity to activity, job to different like hobby. And it's just like, man, it needs to be something more to life. So that's one of my big things, is just trying to wake up and find that drive. And one of the big things were like, I was reading a book and it was like, what's your why? And that was just one of the big things too. I was just trying to figure out, because I was just all over the place, and like, man, if I'm able to find that why, that reason to connect, why I'm going to work, why I'm helping out family, why I'm doing these things, it will all make sense. But yeah, it's awesome, man. I mean, thanks for sharing about about the presence and everything. It's huge, man. It really is needed. But yeah, I forget. We had a big conversation yesterday about something, and we were just kind of going off on tangents. And
we were talking about work. We hit briefly on something I want to talk about because my latest episode was about work and how the Bible says we are created to work.
Yeah,
we were created to go work. Adam, the curse was he had to toil the ground, and the ground would hate him. Well, not that it said hate him, but they would fight back. It would be weeds, there would be thorns, the ground would be dirty and dry and hard, and not that it wasn't already dirty. But then in the various New Testament books, Paul and other authors exhort the readers, do not be a sluggard, you must work. If you do not work, you're worthless, you should be cast out of the church. Because most of the time, they also equated not working to, a lot of the times, people were also not working and being gossipers and being busybodies and being useless. The one verse, Miles Standish, I believe that's his name. Miles Standish? Standish. The guy from Plymouth Rock.
Okay. Yeah. It's one of those names you say. It's just,
one of the historical figures during the creation of Jamestown. There's a bunch of people who weren't working, and they were just like, I want food. And he quoted that Bible verse that Paul says. I don't remember where it is. I just read it too. I think it might have been in Hebrews, where he says, he basically says, hey, if you don't work, you get no food. And so he quoted that, and then he held everybody to it. And all of that, not to mention we live in America, and if you live in America, there's a work ethic. If you're not working, you're not a part of society. You are useless and worthless, and you should not belong. At least that's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
Like my own parents, I love my parents. And if they're listening to this, which is a given every now and then, like sometimes they listen, I love you guys. But like, my parents were like, well, if you're not working, we can't allow you to not work. And I get that, but it's so stressful to work. Like, I've never been so stressed out in my life.
Right.
I'm just like, I go to work, my brain is on pins and needles. I come home and I've got 6 hours to try and do something with my time before I have to go to bed and get up the next day. But all that to be said, because when we were talking, you were saying that it's not so much something that we really should be doing. More so, we should be working something we enjoy.
Right.
Which, the whole reason I'm torn on that myself is because, starting in Genesis all the way to Hebrews, Paul and God are exhorting people, you need to work, and then when you work, you must work for me. No matter what your job is, even if you're a slave, you need to work for me with joy in your heart. And if that's the case, if that is true, then you and I are in a serious boatload of trouble with God right now, because we're going to work and we're like, work, and then we come home and we're like, work sucks. We should find a new job. Yeah.
And we cared nothing for it. And we're just like, yeah, well, that was a waste of hours, and now we're back here.
No, legitimately, I go to work and I'm like, I don't want to sound like a millennial because I'm not. I don't want to sound like a Gen Z dude because I am, but I don't want to be the lazy person. I don't want to be the guy in the room who's like, well, I don't feel like doing it, so I'm not gonna do it. Because I am that guy to an extent. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be that guy who's like, well, I feel like I should be getting paid more. But I do. Like, if I work a 40-hour week at the job I'm at, I will not make gross. I'll make about 500. But 550, I think, at this point, gross. If I work 40 hours.
Literally me.
If I work 40 hours, what do you make?
Well,
an hour?
An hour.
What do you have a salary?
Yeah, based off of everything between. So we have unions. So we have union dues.
Oh yeah.
We have New Jersey taxes, which suck. We also have different things that are kind of like within our insurance plan. There's money that's just being taken out. So I literally probably lose about maybe like 150 to 200 on my paycheck. And then I am actually 19 an hour. So do the math.
You make 19 an hour?
I make 19 an hour because of everything based off of the insurance, the taxes, our union dues. I am equated to someone who is probably working between 13 and 15.
So, because I make $13.75 an hour.
Okay.
And when I go to work, I feel it's a waste of my time because I work 8 hours, whether I'm working register or whether I'm working making drinks for people. To me, it's a waste of time.
Gotcha.
It's not. I want to be doing something that influences people, that helps people, that I feel like has an impact, that I can see has an impact.
Yeah.
I work at this company called Wawa, and most of you people who listen probably know what it is, and if you don't, you know me, so you know what it is. It's basically a retail store. There are hundreds with thousands of employees across the tri-state area, some down south in like North Carolina and Florida, maybe one or two in like New York, because New York isn't included in the tri-state area.
Right.
And like basically, if you know the area, you know. But if you don't, they have a deli area. That's their main attraction. They've got drinks, they've got the register, and they've got a few courts sometimes. I think it's a waste of time. I go to work for 8 hours, and I make no more than... how much do I make? I'm not doing the math. All I know is at the end of the week, I can't make more than $550 if I work a 40-hour week. That's a 40-hour week. I don't want to work a 40-hour week. That stresses me out. That makes me feel like a lazy bum, and I'm worthless when I say that. But when I do the math, $550, like I got a $500 bonus for working 3 months.
Right.
And Uncle Sam took out, I got $329 of that.
Goodness, Uncle Sam.
So they took so many taxes, and when I get a paycheck, I worked 1 week where I made over 500. I'd worked 37 hours, and I got maybe 440 out of that. And so I'm like, 440 a week. To me, that's not enough when I consider my time being wasted. But then right now I'm immediately reminded of what Jordan Peterson says, and he says your time, even if you're not at work, is worth anywhere from $50 to $100 an hour. Now do the math. How much money are you wasting because you're playing? Not you didn't say playing, but that's what I equate to. When you're wasting not doing things that can get you further in life. And when I hear that, I'm like, how much money am I wasting when I play video games? That's a lot of money.
Yeah. How much money are you putting into the video game to waste time outside of that? Gamers all around the world right now are just going crazy screaming because of that statistic. But yeah, no, it's the truth, man. And no, I actually kind of like that statistic. Yeah, one of the few things you were even saying, even going back to like, I think it was like the Adam and Eve. We were actually, when you're looking at those type of deals, we were made to work. But I feel like as things went on from like the beginning of time to like the middle of the ages to now 2021, I feel like things have changed. So when it came to like the Adam and Eve days, working, so specifically it was different because now we work to live, to where before all this we were meant to live to work. And the sake of that, there was no toil, there was no sweat, there was no, anything of like a stress back then. It was good. Once Adam, committed that sin, actually it was Eve, because Eve took from the forbidden tree and had the fruit, and then Adam followed suit after that, and that whole story goes on with that in Genesis. That is what ruined work for us, like just in general. And the fact to it too, I think even Paul was talking about it too. If you don't work, it's the sake of, of uselessness. I think too, because there was a point to where God created people, there's a purpose for us to be and to do. Like, who are you created to be and what are you created to do? The serving part. That essence of that, when it comes to like, your gifts, when it comes to like your actual like calling in life, that ties into like your uniqueness, that is, specifically where you're able to work and be, proficient and do what you truly enjoy. And I think when it comes to that, to the sake of, when we don't work, we're not amounting to something in the essence of what work is truly, to be. We're not giving our all. We're kind of giving less. I think too, in like, I'll say American culture, but even the work culture, there's this false narrative to say that if you don't work, you're a failure. When really the thing is, there's many people who cannot work for different reasons, financial, medical, different things. I think too, it's different when you're in holding patterns and people have this standard to where it says, there's this thing in society that says that, if you're not working, you're not doing anything. There's a sense to where you cannot be working, not making money, and still be planning towards to get back to work, still be planning or even doing things that can build back to something that builds back into your actual being. I know there was a time, actually, I was unemployed for a while during COVID. And one of the big things about it was I felt like I was lazy. Why? Because American culture and different things say, hey, I'm not working, so I feel like a bum. I was sitting around. I was eating probably 5 meals a day. And, but actually what the thing is too, while I was doing that, I actually was let go from a job. I actually was at home caring for a sick grandfather, as well as trying to study and figure out, a lot of purpose, a lot of calling, a lot of things like that. And at the same time, trying to develop my character and help with my resilience. How much money did I make? Zero. But the thing about it is that's the motion where if they say you're not making money, that you're a failure, you're not amounting to anything. But like, what about character building? What about peace? What about those things that actually help you as a human being? So when you get back to that platform of employment, you're properly fit and you're properly working the way you're supposed to. And I think too, even with the things of the Bible, was like the sake of, if you're not working, quote unquote, if you're not doing specifically what you were called to do or your function of purpose, you're living purposefully. But I think when it translated over to nowadays, people are saying, oh, if you don't work, you're lazy. Which I feel like specifically, even with someone who had their first job or even their second job, it's kind of hard to say that to someone like that because they're just got into the workforce. They're just trying to get into employment and they're trying to get things together. And I think too, even like with me, I think I'm 27. I probably had like 30 jobs because of the sake of, I was just trying to get a paycheck each and every one because each job was not in what I call a sweet spot where your talents and your passions and your values kind of tying together. And that's where you work. I was just jumping from job to job because I was just trying to survive financially and get things together. And also it was a sense that I wanted to have money for myself and help myself afloat, which is good, but I wasn't really acting on purpose. And the thing is too, I was talking with Joe about it. Like there's guys and girls who come out of high school, and one of the things too, I mean, my high school sucked. I don't know about yours or it's, anything like that. But, but it was the fact that one of the things that it didn't teach me, well, it taught me and told me, you work, you have work. This is work. It never said, hey, Phil, how do you work? How do you work best? What work, like those things. And I feel like there's a whole exploration, at least when it comes to like work and career, that should have been given to us and should have been taught to us and passed down, if not generation from generation, from a parenting or from a teaching and academic standpoint, to where you're able to know how you work and best operate. Thank the Lord for YouTube. Thank the Lord for podcasts and everything else outside of school. Sorry if you like school, hey, that's fine with you. Continue on and enjoy that 9 to 5. And, when you go crazy, hit up this podcast because we'll help you. But, it was just a fact to where there's other people, like I'll even say myself, who, I don't fit that mode. I don't fit that, sitting in school and doing these certain things. I can pay attention and I can do those things of actually, getting somewhere, and whether it's certification, stuff like that. But it's a simple fact that, I want to be able to be in a facility or in a space or in a medium where I'm actually able to learn things like this, to where I have like YouTube, like podcasts, even books. I go and that's how I learn. I don't learn the academic, way, fundamentally how you learn and, get a degree or just like a third, but I learn from people. I learn from doing. I learn from just kind of getting that thing. And it's just kind of crazy because, there's times when I wasn't making money, but I was working on my purpose. I was working on my character. I was developing me. And that was one of the big things too. And, just being able to spread it. So I think it's just kind of changes over the time to where that idea of you're not making money, you're nothing. And it's like, wow, that's just very systematic. That's very, from a point to where a societal pressure to make money for someone that is just kind of taken from you anyway. Like just right. Joe was just talking about, like, just, from the check and everything. So I have like a lot of ideas on different things and stuff like that. But yeah, I am not for the notion. I think even from the age 18 to age 30, society needs to do better and helping people learning how to work and know that the one system does not work, and that if you're not working, you are something, because they can't pay you what you're worth. One thing, and also you're priceless. You're a human being from God, and you were created to do magnificent and wonderful things. So money is only an object. Instead of the whole thing, money is no object. Money is only an object, and it shouldn't control us. We shouldn't be, working for money. Money should be working for us. Mm-hmm. So in these spaces, to where it's a podcast, whether it's YouTube, whether it's a book, whether it's a group, whether it's the sake of learning, an unconditional way, I say go and do that. And you'll be making a different type of wealth than the money that we make at a Wawa or a beat up tire place. I do not like you guys. Even though I'm coming back on Monday, you still fire me. I don't like you. I won't say your name because I don't want Joe to get in trouble. But just know who I'm talking about.
I can't get in trouble. Like,
okay.
Even if they hear this,
yeah.
I'm so small they're like, we'll sue him for $30.
Yeah.
he makes how much a year? We'll sue him for $30.
Oh,
We'll be lucky if we get that. No, I agree with you to an extent. I was thinking as you were talking, I should be focused on what you're saying than should be on my own thoughts. But for starters, I think part of you said we're designed to live to work, and now we work to live. I think it's the opposite. Because Adam and Eve, all civilizations up until like the past 300-400 years, you had to work every single day. You had to grow your farm. You had to raise your animals. You had to mend. Maybe you were a tailor. Maybe you were a blacksmith. Maybe you were a writer. Maybe you were in parliament. But your job had more meaning. Because if you didn't farm, you had no food.
Right.
If you didn't create those clothing, your kids didn't have clothing, and you didn't make money. But not only that, but I think a lot of people, not that every single person, and not that, I don't even know the percentage of it, I don't know, but I think a lot of people, when they worked a job that they enjoyed. Like a blacksmith. You were raised by your father who taught you blacksmithing. And a lot of people had the choice, and nobody seems to get this, is a lot of people, everyone's like, well, back in the old times, they were locked in. Yeah, they were. But all I have to point you to is Noah Webster, who went down, who taught himself to read, and then wrote the Webster, who had the Webster Dictionary, who was a publisher, who wrote books. I forget what his father worked as, but his father was not educated. Neither was his mother. He taught himself how to read. Like, that's the America that we come from. And so my whole point here is they probably worked jobs that they either enjoyed or thought they enjoyed. And so regardless, they didn't really lead the lives of... There's a quote by Henry David Thoreau that I heard from Joe Rogan on one of his recent episodes. And it goes, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with the song still in them."
Ooh.
He was examining... It's in the book, I believe it's in a book I own, actually.
Okay.
Walden, I believe,
okay.
by Henry David Thoreau. But I think the point of the whole thing is most people at that time, starting around that time, maybe a bit earlier than that, Mr. Thoreau noticed a lot of men are working jobs they don't like, and there's a passion inside of them that they want to explore, to make into something, but they don't. Whether it's because they don't have the time, because at that time I think factory jobs were starting to get more popular. So they were locked in for 12 to 14-hour shifts, if I'm remembering correctly. And then not only did they not have time, they were exhausted, they had families. Rogan created it. He equalized it to modern day society where we work a 9 to 5. You get home, you throw on Netflix, you don't have a passion project, you don't have a purpose, you eat a TV dinner, you go to bed, you do the same thing the next day, and you have this idea boiling down deep inside of you that you want to explore, but nobody seems to think they have the time for it. And I fall into that trap a lot too, because like my brain has started to automatically program time to play video games. So when I go, I want to do this, my brain goes, bleep, 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 that's only 3 hours of video games, that's not enough time. What are you doing? Which is another thing I want to work on. Perfectionism sucks, by the way. Do not fall into that trap if you can help it.
I'll try not to.
But my whole point with that is I think we moved from a society that work was how we lived, because if we didn't work, we didn't live. If you didn't work, you couldn't get food. Because if you sold the clothing, you could go buy food. Like, yeah, they worked hard. Like, they worked really hard, but work was an ethic. It was something that was moral. Now we're in a culture where work isn't moral, it's money. I'm still torn on whether or not we should or should not be working, because not only that, but we were created to work. It was one of them. I don't want to say one of the worst times of my life, but one of the times of my life where I just felt unsatisfied was when I played video games all day long and I didn't work. Now that doesn't, I can't say that if I'd done something more like I worked out and I worked on myself, I read books, I went outside, the things that make you a better person. I can't say that if I'd done that I would have had the same results, because when I for a brief time, I managed to get myself a sleep schedule going, and when I did that, I had like, I don't want to say smooth brain, because when you have a smooth brain in real life, your brain doesn't function. Yeah. But I had smooth brain, as in like everything was streamlined. Like I was going to bed at 10:30, like it varied somewhat, like it wasn't rigid, and I was getting up here like 7:30, sometimes earlier, because my body was just like, you can get up now. And then I was getting things done during the day, and then I had nothing left to do. I was walking around the house at like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, like, I am so bored. I want to go work. And now I'm working, and I'm like, I want to go play video games. I am sick and tired of going to Wawa every single day. Yeah. I love my coworkers, I really do. But the atmosphere is like, come in, do the work for us, do your best job, maybe move up the ladder. Like, that's the purpose. Go home, do the same thing, do the same thing, do the same thing. And I don't like it. Like, my dad had like some 50 jobs growing up. Like, he worked at airports. He worked for himself for a little bit. And now here I am at 18, and I'm trying to figure out what the heck to do with my life.
Yeah.
And it's confusing because I've got my parents screaming it's actually screaming, but they're yelling in one ear where they're like, you should be working. Work is important. If you don't work, you're less human than the rest of us. And then I've got myself saying, well, I'm also kind of lazy and I really don't want to work. Like 3 days a week, I would love to work 3 days a week because that's easy. It's easy to go to work 3 days a week because then I've got free time. Which is another thing. Working a full-time job that you don't really like, it drains. It's emotionally draining. Like, I haven't been this stressed out since even when I was severely depressed and had suicidal tendencies. Well, not tendencies, thoughts. I wasn't doing anything, just the thoughts would leave me alone. I had moments of peace because I was so connected with God because I needed him so desperately. Like, that was the closest I've been to God in forever. And that was, the peace was amazing there. Like, there would be times I was like, God, I can't do this. I'm so distressed. I can only, like, there was times I couldn't get off the floor. I was just so broken. And I would just lay there and we would talk. And then I would, like, 30 minutes later, I'd get up and I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can go make a meal so I can eat. And it was all God. Like, I can't take any credit for it. Like, there's no way I could have done it without God. I could have been dead for all I know without God there. But even during that time, like when I was mentally broken and physically broken, like I think I was at my lowest, I was 111 pounds. I'm 5'9" or 5'10". It completely depends who I'm standing next to. So just put that in perspective. So like I needed a lot of food. I was starving. I was mentally really broken. I couldn't sleep well. I was exhausted. And then just God was like, do you remember me? And I was like, yeah, I kind of can't not, because if I don't cling to you so tightly, I'm going to die. And that actually flowed over as I started to get better. I spent time in the Word. It was great. But now I went from the stress of I'm not doing anything to the stress of I'm working and I should be enjoying it, but I don't enjoy it. And everybody's telling me I should be having, not fun, but I should be working and doing my best to enjoy the work. Like being like, God created me to work, so I should enjoy it. I don't want to, part of me doesn't want to say things like I don't want to work because it makes me feel selfish. Like, I don't want to work because I'm lazy.
I disagree. I think you should say that anytime you feel like it. It's just too, man, that was good, man. It was just, it's weird too, because I feel like we're in a different space, even though generationally different things. Even you were saying back in the time, for like the blacksmiths who worked the blacksmith jobs and those different things, like even with that, I don't even know if they really enjoyed it, even as you were saying. I think it was like my forefathers did it, so they were good at it. So I either got to get good at it or I am good at it. And I don't know, really, history is an amazing thing. And I feel like we should all go back and just continue to look at it and dig deep in it. But today, like, there's variety. There's just a sake of different things, but people keep wanting to do the same type of living. There's stories about people not always having to work, a full time and 9 to 5 and still being able to do it. I actually want to figure out how this is happening, because I want to break from the mold, and I feel like that's what kind of Joe and I are doing. Like, we're breaking the mold, and even too, I feel the same way, because it's like, even at a time to where, when you weren't working, you were going through those things and you were kind of connecting with God, and still, it wasn't great. Obviously, you're going through depression and suicidal thoughts, but like, there was that sake of a peace, and there was that sake of, okay, I'm able to kind of just relax and do those things. And I feel like work kind of takes from that. I can go in and work. I have a very high devotion and a high work ethic to work, but it's within the boundaries like I would like to work and the things I like to do. The things that I don't, I go and do it. My personality's not in it. My heart definitely is not in it. Mm-hmm. And I just count down the hours. Literally, the reason why I chose the job I did is because the hours go fast. Like, right. Literally, I think it's from 8 to 4:30. And I think I'm driving, literally, and, driving takes time as you, like, I literally planned this out in my head. I'm like, okay, it takes time to drive from different, directions and routes. And from 8, I want to say from like 8:30 Actually, no, sorry, we started at 8, so 8 to 4:30. So around 8 to about maybe 3, I'm driving, and I got podcasts going on, I got music going on, I'm in my truck by myself. My big things are, working things that are hands-on, autonomy, kind of doing my own thing, not a mass surveillance or a boss, breathing down my neck. So that's why I did this job, and also it just worked out financially. It was going well, but we did the math with Joe, and I'm still not getting paid well. So, but that was the thing, because I was like, in my opinion, I need to work not because that I want to in that sense within the job, but I need to satisfy that need that we have, that financial thing. So that's why I'm working in the sense. But I feel like we need that variety. We need that sense to where one, we can work a job, but we can also be away from that job and still have a sense of peace, still have a sense of fun. I was just talking with Joe too, just like, hey, what do we do with the rest of our day? And it's just like after work, and it's hard because, especially even coming out of from COVID and just, different things in life, people aren't really being people anymore. Like people aren't really open and wanting for community and wanting to get together. Like God bless all those who do podcasts, because it's just people like if people actually got together and actually really cared and really dug into different things, not even if this was like their number one thing, if they just care. Like I came on here because I care about Joe and I care about people and I care about just influencing. And I was like, why not? Why not just sit down? And like one of the big things I realized too, even with like jobs and changing the way you work and changing the way you live and everything. There's 3 different things that kind of comes to mind. It's fear. People want to keep doing the same old thing, trying to get the same results, and that is the definition and the formula for insanity. And it's just trying to spin the same wheel over and over. And doubt. There's doubt. There's just like, man, I really can't do anything besides this. All I am is this, and all I can do is this. And it's like, that's a lie. That's a lie from the pit. That's a lie from loved ones. That's a lie from those who are, just haters. And, even pride. That's one of the bigger things I struggle with, because in my life, I'm like, you know what? I wanted a certain way. And if it doesn't go like that, then I'm going to continue to do my own agenda. And the thing about that is that when I do that, I keep myself closed to accessing other opportunities and open doors. And I feel like that's like those are the 3 things that people are kind of, vying from and trying to get away from, and or even are stuck in. And I feel like as we do that as a society and community, we break away from fear, from doubt, and from pride, we'll move in a certain way. But yeah, even to the point to where I was even saying, we were made to be, we were made to work. That's changed. Like it's changed a whole lot from this time, from when it started. But human beings, ruined that for human beings. Like, and not even like Adam and Eve, like not even that. And even if you're listening to this, you're not, religious or spiritual. I'm actually just speaking from an open book. Like even like, think of people now, think of those who are in power, think of those who are quote unquote influential based off their platforms, and look how they treat other people who are under them. Look how they treat other people who they're supposed to be leading, but instead they're just managing, which is a difference. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the world, we've lost leaders, we lost lovers, we lost community builders, and all these different things that don't make money. They're the things that people are supposed to invest in, and they're the things that build us up to these different things. So I mean, I'm kind of going in different tangents because my mind is all over, but I just feel like now we have more variety. We have more of the sake of, opportunity. It's different for other people. It's not the same. I'm not going to sit here and say, we all have the same opportunity. We all can do it. We can't. We're all coming from different things, house situations, money
honestly,
situations.
I'm going to disagree with you right there.
Yeah.
I point you back to Noah Webster. Like, he had a poor family for some of the extent. He stayed up late to the point he broke his eyeballs to read because his parents couldn't afford it. Like, he was like, you need to work, because if you don't work, we can't afford it.
Right.
Like, you need to work. So he would stay up late and would just read books. I don't think anyone, even if you're a drug addict on the streets, I think you have the same opportunity as I do, because you have the ability to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I know a few homeless people, and I do understand that if you're homeless, it's 10 times harder to get that initial boost, but you can do it. Like, one of Rogan's episodes, he was talking to an artist named Jewel. And Jewel, she grew up in an abusive household in Alaska and then left and was homeless on the street. And then because of her own tenacity, because I want to say God blessed her, but I don't know what God did because I'm not in God's mind. she went from being homeless to having no money to singing in coffee shops to getting a record deal after singing some songs on the radio to selling 1 million records a month for about a year straight. I think 6 months, 8 months, something like that, close to a year. And then she took breaks, but she made it a point to be, her goal was to be happy. So she said, how can I be happy? What are my thoughts? What is, I forget, she said, like, the way she worded it reminded me of a flower, but like basically open and closing. What opens me up? What fills me up? What makes me happy? What fulfills me? What nourishes me? And what closes me down? What makes me anxious? What makes me less happy? And she wrote that all down, and she figured out a way to, which, by the way, psychologists who spoke to her as she got older and, as she became more popular and discussed things like this and wrote her book, were like, how the heck did you do that? We don't even know how to do that. We don't even tell people how to do that. How did you do that? Because it physically works. It literally changed your brain. Literally, you're a more happy, positive person who can now handle stress better than most people because of the way you did that thing when you were homeless. And so I say that because I know for a fact that if you're homeless, you can get up there. I know it's possible. I know it's harder. One of the homeless guys I know right now, he's going through a hard time. He's got a fractured arm. I think he's dealing with suicidal thoughts because it's getting cold out, and he's just can't seem to catch a break. But I know it's possible. I think honestly, the homeless people are kind of near and dear to my heart in a little bit. Like I don't know if God was just like, hey Joe, he was like, hey Joe, your father had a passion for them, and now that passion's yours. Because my dad hasn't been able to do much for them. But like it's like when I talk, it's a feeling that I can't. Like it's more ingrained in me than the podcast. Like when I'm talking to homeless people, like I need to make a distinction. The good homeless people. By good, I mean people who are working their butts off to make their lives better, but they can't get it because society screws them over with things like you need to have an address if you want to get a job.
So what if the quote unquote bad people went through the same situation? How do you distinguish good from bad?
I consider
attitude is a personality.
It's what they're doing.
Okay.
Like the one homeless guy I know, he walks around and he doesn't say, hey, give me money, please. He goes to people like, do you have a job that I can do that you can pay me a little bit for? Because in that case, like he's still got his pride, which is, do not have pride when you're a homeless person. Do not. Be willing to accept help. Because if you cannot accept help, you cannot climb the ladder. It's stupid. If you will not accept somebody's place to stay so that you can rest, like you have to trust them, of course. Naturally, we live in a world where you can't trust people very easily anymore. But point being, if you have pride and it keeps you from accepting help, you're going to get stuck. But there are other people, like there's two types of people. There's the people who work their butts off despite being homeless and make a way for themselves the best way they can. And then there's the other people who like stand outside of Wawa's and say, money, 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 please. Go inside. Maybe they buy something, maybe they don't. And they just beg for money. They don't go to work. I had one, once again, the same homeless guy. He had one of the other homeless guys was like, hey, do you want to come with me to work and make some money? And he was like, no. And he just walked around because it's easier to not do that. It's easier to keep staying there, not take that step to do the hard thing, which I know a lot of people, myself included, have a hard time doing, is doing the hard thing because it's a lot easier to play video games than it is to get up and take the trash out. But that's how I distinguish it, is what are they doing with the time they have to make their lives better? And if they're bumming outside of a business instead of finding work, I consider you somebody who has less respect than another homeless guy who's working his butt off. Like not that you're necessarily bad, not that you're like a bad person, but I have less respect for you because you're not trying to make your situation better. You're just trying to bum off people when you could be making your situation better. I know another homeless guy who's living in the woods. His ex, I think it was, or something like that, allowed him to still, or his mother, or his grandmother, something like that. Some lady in his life allowed him to use the address to get mail and stuff sent to, and so he could also register for work. Because if you don't have an address, you're not allowed to work. It's a lot of businesses are like that. And because of that, he was able to work. And because of that, he went from living in a tent in the woods near me to now he's renting an apartment. It's a step-by-step slow increase. I'm not saying he's perfect. I don't know him too well. Like I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying if you're not willing to make the strides and the sacrifices to do the hard work, I have less respect for you. I don't have respect for myself because I don't do the hard work a lot of times. It's like there's a task that could be done, but someone else can do it. So why should I do it? But at the same time, that's how I distinguish. It's are you trying to get out of your situation, or are you just trying to take advantage of your situation because getting out of it is hard? So I don't think anybody, I don't care if you're black, white, yellow, red, I don't care if you live in the slums or if you live in freaking Los Angeles in like one of the penthouses. You can go from nothing to something, or from something to nothing, depending on how you live your life. And there are so many stories of people who come from the slums, from the poor areas in like Philadelphia, who rise up, like Kevin Hart, for gosh darn sake. Father left, mom was kind of broke his entire life. He got his big break by doing comedy, and we all know who Kevin Hart is now. He's a comedian, he's in a lot of movies, he's kind of vulgar, kind of being like, what's the opposite of hyperbole? Anyway, point is, you can go from nothing to something if you put the hard work in. And get some lucky breaks along the way. Because if you don't get help, like every time I hear a story, it's like with the artist Jewel, she had sepsis. Some doctor said, you got turned away. Here's some antibiotics. Stay in this car, in this parking lot, in the hospital parking lot. Do not go anywhere. I'm taking care of you. That doctor saved her life, helped her get to the next step, right? She couldn't have done it by herself. Kevin Hart, a guy came alongside him, mentored him, helped him get more gigs. It's the same thing. Like, you need to accept help. I've noticed a lot is help will come to you if you're working and striving to get up. I don't want to say it's like a whole like, oh, karma thing. You do the good thing, something comes to you. It's not karma. I don't know if it's God just being like, I'm rewarding you, or if it's just God being like, you know what? This is how life is going to roll for you. And I don't know God. I don't know how he operates in that manner. Well, I know God, but I don't. Yeah, anyway, my point is...
we're trying to learn more, but we don't always know all the aspects.
Right.
I feel, yeah.
My point is, you can be from nothing and rise to something, which then brings a whole new... This is part of the reason why I'm hesitant to keep going with the podcast, is because it doesn't feel like a real job. It doesn't feel like a real job to be like, I sit down and I talk and I make money.
Yeah. But look how much hard work and effort you're putting into it. You may not see it, but it's all coming from here. And usually, I'm pointing to the heart, by the way. Sorry, I'm pointing to the heart when I said here. But and I see it. I mean, it's the same passion, it's the same zeal, but you have to have someone who comes, because you can have someone and be like, man, like, they can miss the point completely and say, wow, like, Joe really is passionate about this podcast, and look how hard he's working. Man, if you can just put it into Wawa. No,
I don't.
No,
I don't. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I love talking to people at Wawa. I didn't realize how much, like, one of the things I learned through my depression was I'm more extroverted than I allowed myself to be. Like, there would be times I'd go to, like, our youth group, and I'd be like, I came home from that, fired up, energetic, ready to just go and take on the world because I was with people.
Right.
And I was like, but I'm an introvert, so that didn't actually happen. Sweep that under the rug. I went through my depression, came out the other side, and I'm like, yeah, I need people. I love talking. I get... When I talk to people, my mood goes boing. Like, I can be in a bad mood, and as long as I'm not ranting about myself, like if I rant about myself, I just go dig myself deeper.
Yeah.
But if I'm just talking with a friend about anything, or even just a stranger, my mood goes do up and up and up and up and up. And I was like, why didn't I realize that earlier? But it's one of those things that I learned through that experience. Mm-hmm. So I know I love talking, and several people have told me I'm eloquent. I know how to speak well. I know to communicate my thoughts. I have a hard time accepting compliments, like really to the point where it's like I have fake humility sometimes because I can't accept a compliment without feeling prideful. So I just sweep it under the rug like, oh, thank you so much. I don't believe you, which is now another problem I have to fix because now I don't believe in myself. But my point with that is I know that God has gifted me with words. I know that he's given me the ability to write and the ability to speak. I don't know where that could lead. I don't know if it's the podcast. I would love for it to be, but a little piece of me doesn't feel right with the podcast. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just me being lazy because I'm like, because I work and then I got to go to work and then I got to do the podcast because I don't know what it is.
Right.
I do know the homeless people are near and dear to my heart. I don't know if that's the missionary part that God wants me to do. I also know I like helping people, often to my own detriment. Also something I have to work on. But I do know that working at Wawa, my heart is not in it. I go to work. I don't like it. I have to make drinks for people. I have to check people out at the register. It's not fun. There's no sense of accomplishment. When I do a podcast episode and it's done and I edit it and I hear it and it's like, I hope that helps somebody. It's fun. Mm-hmm. It's work, but it's fun. Like I can spend like 3 hours editing the darn thing and I come out of it like, oh, my eyes. But that was fun. Now I can't wait to see what happens with it. I go to Wawa, I work 8 hours standing on my feet, and I'm like, by the end of the day, I'm depressed. I'm like, can I go home? Can I just work 3 days a week and work 4 hours and make money? Like, is that possible? I also want a passive income. I don't know about you, but I want to have a passive income.
Yes, that's the goal.
But then there's things like you and I, for example, we're not like my dad, for example. My dad works 50 to 60 hours a week as a truck driver. He works local, but by local I mean like the tri-state area. And he has had to fight to make the 28, 29 an hour he's making to make enough money to bring home for the family. Like he can make, I'm not going to say how much he makes a year, but he makes enough to help us out. But it's not enough to live on. If he lost his job, one paycheck and we're done. Because we live paycheck to paycheck. That's a lot of, to be fair, my dad was born in the 1950s, but a lot of parents live on a 9-to-5 basis. They work from paycheck to paycheck. And while maybe there might be that little idea on the side of their heads, it's like, maybe I should start my own business, something, anything, whether it's a podcast or a computer business or designing or photography, whatever it is. It's a risk. And Rogan said this, and I've realized it before, and you mentioned it, change is a risk. I tend to avoid risk because I'm afraid of everything. That's honestly the biggest thing I got to fix, because if I can face that, then I will take on the world.
I disagree. I think you're not, in my opinion. I just don't. I see in one way where you're coming from, of thinking that you fear everything. But nah, man, I mean, I'm very interesting too. I'm not the self-help, oh, you just got to be fearless and you got it. I actually disagree with the word fearless too. I think fear is weird. Fear is real. I think we can combat it. So I always say, in that one sense, to be someone to fight your fears. Honestly, I do see you do that in different ways. There's different, things of, the whole, you just got to be fearless and get through it. And it's just like, we fight fear every day, whether you're actually, going through things and actually, continuing on in a hard, laborious life. The fact that, fear is always there. Doesn't matter if you're successful. Like, even people who have made it, like Joe Rogan still goes through fear. Joe, please come on this podcast and tell this Joe and myself that, you fight through fear and, be real. But I think too, I think about narratives too, because a lot of people, and I think I read this in a book before, a lot of people will get somewhere in life of success. They don't know all the keys to it, which is fine, because of how life is bigger than how we kind of put things together. And not only sometimes they only don't know, but sometimes people, they also forget. I always look at the thing of the word like self-made, and it's like, were you really self-made? Like, yes, you put your hard work in and you did things, but what about the people who opened the doors for you that you had no idea? How about the people who actually, could have been someone who raised you, could have been a friend who put you through, it could have been something like that, could have been an opportunity, God was moving around. Even the bad experiences puts you in good scenarios and good situations. So I'm just kind of looking at that thing like, man, like, when it comes to stuff like fear, like, nah, fear exists. And, we are only called, but we are wired and designed when thought of and walked out right to fight fear. And even that whole thing of self, I'm self-made. It's a self-lie. Like, it's the fact that, it takes quote unquote a village, being a product of your own environment. Like, even if I ever make it somewhere, or Joe makes it somewhere, it's not because of our own strength. If we would, we probably would have done that since age 2. We just didn't, because it's just the fact that, if that was the case, it would have gone together. Even, I think you were even saying too, there was 2 things. It was like luck, and it was like, what's it called? Being extroverted and introverted. So for me, everyone, I call myself a fake extrovert. Sometimes I'm just an opportunist. I see when, an extrovert is needed, and I play that role to kind of get that thing to going, trying to get it together. Like, even now, like, even, we're kind of speaking, it's more intimate, but I'm using my just not my introverted, but my external personality. Like, it's just the sake of me kind of doing that. I always, that word is probably I mean, the idea of it back in a while ago was either you were shy or you were not. Now it's
Right.
like introverted, extroverted. I found out about the whole ambiverted, which your balance. I just say that, but then I just read something else on the internet saying that word doesn't exist. So
Okay.
I'm a liar.
I'm gonna jump in here because I've read a bit about it.
Okay, go ahead.
It's a freaking scale, dude. It's a scale. It's a slider. There's no black and white.
Yeah.
Nothing in life is black and white. They say the same thing for like sex and gender, which is an entirely different discussion, which we'll probably end up having at some point.
I know. Yeah.
But my point here is you're not extroverted and introverted.
Yeah.
You are somewhere along a spectrum of from black to white. Like for me, I think we're similar. There's so many things we're so similar in, like the
right?
goals we want,
Yeah, man.
how we wanted to help people. I think maybe the people we want to help is maybe a bit different. Like, because I know for me, it's homeless people. It's also people who are broken, because I've been broken. I want to help the broken.
Mm-hmm.
Like specific people, I think that might be slightly different. Just the sense I'm getting, but it doesn't mean I have the sense that our paths are gonna diverge at some point, and I really don't want that to happen because you're a great guy. Like if I could, I'd have you on the podcast every single time.
I'd be an honor, man. It'd be great.
If I could, I mean like as in like if that was. I don't even know what I mean because it could totally
It's
happen.
going to expand. It's going to blow. It's going to explode, man. I was even thinking about this too, and I'll let you go back to what you were saying, Joe. But like, just like even where it's coming from, man. Even think about the time you're in. Think about the time we're in. Think about the time of how I met you, when I met you, how, and what we're talking about, how we're talking about it, and how we're just in this room. Go ahead, man.
No. As you're talking, I'm realizing we're on the same time we met. Okay, I was like, I'm working a job, but I need to be doing something else. I need a purpose. I need a passion. I need something to drive me forward. I still don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just me avoiding it because it's scary to be committed to something, or if it's just me being like, I don't know what the heck it is. Could it be the podcast? I don't know. Because since I was 12, I felt like God was calling me to be a missionary. So whenever I considered careers, I got scared because I was like, I don't want to be a missionary. That doesn't make me money. That's not what I want. What I want to do is make money and do something I enjoy. Which is really selfish because if God wants me to be a missionary, I can't be Jonah because I'll end up in the belly of a whale and being spewed out at some point.
So, man, you were just hitting it on the nail. So I had the same experience.
What are we
literally the same thing. I felt there was a possibility that I was called as a missionary. I also, funny enough, I didn't get to tell you this. I was going to tell you this before, but I actually wanted to hear your heart on it, so I kind of was listening. I am huge into getting and working and helping with the homeless.
Really?
I'm actually doing, and I was trying to see if I can even get you on it because there's actually two people from my church who I actually met on an outreach program. They're putting together a nonprofit to go and reach the homeless. I've also heard about another one, which I'm going to text this person about that specific thing because that might work with your schedule. And I'm going to get back to you because we're going to be doing some homeless. And even if it's not together,
right.
it's going to be you doing that thing. And I think we just also found out, what do I do after work? What do I kind of put together? That's one of the things. Right. But yeah, that was one of the things too, because I said the same thing. I was like, all right, Lord, like if it's possibility, like missionary is a thing. And it's too, because you got the sake of, missionary being global and those being like domestic home. Like my passion at the time was like, I wanted to travel. I wanted to do all these things. So it was global. It was missions. But the thing was, how it was structured and Lord, I have free reign to speak, so I'll just speak on it and change my heart if it needs to. I just think in some ways it's flawed because with how it's ran, raising support, I was just kind of like, why? Even a lot of things too. I have like a whole thing. So people, for those who don't know, I'm speaking about just specifically just like my faith and things like that. But I am not one who just kind of walks into a building or a church and just, walks in with a stuffed shirt and they're like, I'm ready and everything's perfect. Like there's times I'll go into the same people who talk like me, look like me, and believe the same thing. And I just challenge them. And it's not for the simple fact that I just want to be a you-know-what. Yeah. It's the fact that I actually care about these people and I don't want them to also live in a false narrative and keep saying the same old things that are not right. But going back to missions, too, I just thought that, I didn't want to go and raise support. And also, it didn't make money. That was one thing. And and there's one sense to where you can, and there's been testimonies of that, of trusting God and that actually being worked. Only thing is, I know for certain things, it's a lot of yielding as a sake of, it's not what you want, it's going to give you what you need. Right. So that's one thing too. And then also, I'm in debt, guys. So you can't travel. I'm sorry if you're a missionary and you have thousands and thousands of dollars. You probably can't be a missionary right now because debt, especially even if you're moving out of the country, you're moving different areas. If it's domestically, you can kind of work around it and stuff like that. I actually will probably stick more to that because I feel like being on U.S. soil, I'm affecting my country, I'm affecting my nation. I'm actually being able to go out and reach people who are not like me, but it's here. And I also got into a whole thing of people who are missionaries that go overseas to hold pictures of little brown kids like this and a smile and say, right. Yay, God. No. But it's just for the simple fact that, even financially, that was one of the big things when I even went to go ask, certain missionaries of, what the field was like. And it had certain, specifics. But a lot of the things, the reason why I couldn't even join was financial. I didn't really agree of wanting to raise support. I didn't really, I didn't really think, honestly, I didn't, and I'm still trying to learn the Bible, but I didn't really see anything to where it was like raise support for missions. I think it was more of a hindrance for people who are financially strapped, but who have the heart and the drive to want to do that. And then also if you're strapped for cash, which I went to college and not finished because, yeah, pretty much, similar things. I'm not even trying to like piggyback and try to add like, oh, yeah, we're doing the same thing. Literally depression, and bouts of suicide thoughts.
Right.
So, but that was one of the big things. It was like, I cannot go into this, because of, financially. And then, kind of just talking with God and just kind of like praying and just kind of using, logic. Cause you can also do that with prayer. You don't have to be a person of faith and be a dummy. Like right. You can use your logic and, believe in the supernatural and work in, that saying too, but, in your faith. But I realize, if I'm called to be a missionary and financially things are not going well and things are not possible, it's either one, I probably am not a missionary, or two, there's a sake to where I have to get out of that financial state. Now, things have changed, and I think there's pieces of missions of the mission field and missionaries that I enjoy. So I look at that, and I literally was on stuff like that yesterday, just kind of looking. I think there's pieces of that are in there that I have a heart for, but I don't know if it's going to be in that facet, in that field, in that way. But yeah, man, there was just something like that. But I had you in mind because I was thinking about homeless things and a nonprofit is being started, and someone just told me about another one that was started. And as I was stopping, talking with someone, homeless and things like that, and speaking about that, I thought of you, and I was like, yeah, he's going to get connected some way. So
see, what's fascinating is I hadn't really, occasionally it's come up where I've been like really passionate about talking about with the homeless. I've had different interactions, like going past the McDonald's and there's a guy there, and my mom buying food for him or whatever, and seeing homeless people along the roads. But working this job at Wawa, I think there's only one good thing that's come out of it. It's the connection I've had with the one homeless guy. And this, I'm thinking of three different things right now about how it's really eerie how things are coming together. This is something that I didn't expect to happen. I did not expect to be passionate about the homeless. I expect to be passionate about some other country, the drugs. Like when I was younger, I was like, one of the ladies my mom knew, I was doing yard work for her. She's like, so who do you think God is calling you to reach out to? What group of people? I was like, the drug addicts and the alcoholics on the streets of like the inner cities. And I swear to God, if you put me in the inner cities, I'm going to go nuts because I really, really, for starters, I'm a nature lover. I cannot stand being in the middle of a city. Second, cities suck politically. I don't want to be broke, and I don't want to go nuts because I can't change the city. Anyway, I digress. And then this whole passion, like I haven't been so on fire talking about a topic in a long time. Like it's like a burning in the center of my soul. Like whenever I talk about it with the homeless people, not just like with like you and me, like, oh, hey, yeah, we're comfortable, we're in a house. But like with the homeless people. And I proposed an idea that maybe it's something that God wants me to do. Something along the lines of like a farm with housing, an actual address, and you have to work, you get paid, but you get paid a little bit because your work is also covering room and board. We set up bank accounts for you, and we help you get over drug addictions, pornography addictions, abuse, like actually help you,
right?
Get you situated. Here's the catch. If you don't pull your weight, you're out. Because if one bad apple spoils the bushel. If somebody's doing drugs, everybody else has a chance to do drugs. If somebody's not working and they're still getting paid the living around, that's going to lead to other people. They're like, why is that guy able to do that? Why can't I do that? Like, if there's no tough love, there can be no fixing people. Not that I should be in business of fixing people. But that's just an idea I had. And a few homeless people I've talked to about it. And I'm not saying it's universal that they agree, but they're like, that would be great. It would be great if we had a place to stay, warm food, good food, a place to sleep, work to do, money to make, and then eventually we could get out of there.
Right.
Move on to a better place. But one of the things I was thinking about was when we first met, you said you were like media and radio. And I was like, God, is this something going down the line like in a year? My brain was like, in a year. Is there something that you want us to connect with here? Like are you pulling me to Phil? And then you disappeared for like 8-9 months because of work and whatever, and you just didn't come to prayer anymore. I was like, I didn't forget about you, but I was like, he's gone. Okay, I guess it was a no, God. And here we are. I went to prayer for the first time. January.
Okay.
January, not this year. Last year.
Last year, 2020.
I was having a rough time back in January too.
Okay.
And then I think October and September, like it started in late July into that August, September. I just went boom. My mental health, everything tanked because I was like getting really worried about my health because I was constantly. My thing was every now and then I'd be up at night when like between like midnight and 3 a.m. like almost screaming in pain because my stomach was either so empty or what. I don't really know what it was. I was sweating a lot. Like it was terrible. And I couldn't eat because I was so nauseous. I had to wait for that to go away before I could eat anything. So I'd be up until like 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning and I'd be exhausted and it was terrible. And that was leading me to be like, I want to die. I want to die. Like I was just like, and I'm pretty sure that like opened the door. Like the more you say something like that, the more you're agreeing with like, I know I sound like a hippie, but like the demons. Like the more you say that, the more you agree with demons.
You're listening to that hopelessness, so you're just like, you're earshot away.
And then the demons are like, oh, so we can sneak on in and influence you more, and influence you more. And I'm not the type of person to be like, well, every time you have a suicidal thought, that's a demon. He's 100% like whispering in your ear every single time. Because I don't think they have that much influence over us. I know they have a lot of influence, especially if you're not saved. But I definitely think they have some influence to the point of being like whispering, and then we can carry that and take it further. But around that same time, like I went through all of that, I'm coming out of it. I had the podcast idea, and I was doing the podcast, and you were like, "Well, I want to do radio and media," and then we didn't talk for like 9-8 months, and I was like, "Okay, well, I guess Phil is not someone I need to know, even though he's really cool and he looks like he works out." When I see someone who works out, that they look like they work out, my respect for them goes up. I don't know. I just like it's not something like I'm 125 pounds. I'm really skinny. Like, I'm skin and bone. One of my coworkers, like, she's annoying as heck. She, like, beats me up all the time. She punches me, kicks me. And I'm like,
lovely. I
can't do anything about it. She's a girl. I'm not going to do anything. She's leaving soon anyway. But, like, she punched my shoulder today hard. And I was so tempted to do something. And she's like, ow, I think I just broke my hand. Why are you so bony? And she's like, started pinching me and stuff. And I'm used to it at this point. I'm like, she's like, where's the fat? I'm like, I don't have fat. She's like, I found some. I was like,
oh, man.
I was like, but it reminds me of I'm just this skinny. So when I see people work out, I'm kind of jealous because I want to be fit, you know? But only that, but like, then you come back to the prayer house and start coming back more regularly, and we're still talking about, I'm like, I've always thought you're an interesting guy. Like, I have that tendency to be like, that guy's interesting or that girl's interesting. Maybe I should talk to them more. And I was like, yeah, he's pretty interesting. And at the same time, I was talking with my friend Duncan's dad about how I should have other things. And he's like, your podcast, dude. Is that something you really care about? I'm like, yes. The part of me is like, no, I don't really care about it. I'd rather do nothing. That's the part of me that's lazy. But that part of me is like, and he's like, so why don't you do that? You don't have to do it every day, but why don't you pour yourself into that so that you move forward in that? I'm like, yeah, I should really be doing that. I should include that in my schedule. And then we start talking briefly. I said like maybe 3 sentences about COVID, and you text me like, "Yo, dude, we should totally talk about this more because I thought you really had something else to say." I say that because at the same time I'm thinking about getting my podcast rolling more so because I feel like somewhere on the 6 to 8 month mark, I'm not going to be at Wawa anymore. I say that, but there's no guarantee it's going to happen. There's no guarantee of that. I can't say that. Like I sometimes have senses of things that will happen, and then they happen. I don't know what the heck all that's going on with that. I don't know if it will happen. I don't know if in like 6 to 8 months I'm done with Wawa and I'm working on the podcast 100%. I don't know if I have another job after that. I don't know. I'm the type of person, like, if I'm working something, black and white. I'm black and white. If I'm working something, I'm doing that forever. Like, my brain goes, that's what you're doing until you die. You're working Wawa until you're dead. And I'm like, no, I hate it. But at the same time, like, you're coming back, and I'm thinking, how do I get my podcast rolling? And then you text me, I'm like, we should have a conversation on the podcast. And then we talked the next day. And it was hilarious because you told me that you were thinking about jumping on the podcast, but you refrained from it because it's my podcast. And immediately I was like, what if I had an idea? I don't want to say I do this to everybody, but like my friend Trevor, he was getting my co-host role, but then he had to step back for his own personal reasons, and that's fair. I understand. But the minute you were like, we should have a conversation, and I was like, yeah, we should. And then I was like, we should have it on the podcast. He's like, yes, I was thinking that. My brain went, what if he was my co-host? Or what if he was just a more frequent guest? I'm like, should I say that? Is that really me? Or is like, because all of a sudden I'm like, is God telling me to take a step back from the podcast and focus on being more active in life? Like enjoying where he's put me? I'm trying to figure that out. But like maybe he should be more involved in the podcast and more, because like I have a hard time thinking of topics anymore because I've covered so many of the ones that are important to me. And so I'm like, what if I just have someone to talk to? Just talk, bounce things off, and he can bounce things off me, and we just talk about the world. Like, what if we have a news story that we both care about, and we just talk about that, and that leads somewhere else?
Right.
And I was like, I don't want to be the type of person like, God, is this it? I'm gonna just jump the gun and be like, do you want to join me forever and ever and ever? But like,
bare your soul.
But at the same time, I think it'd be really cool if you were on the podcast more. I really want to say, do you want to join me more often? But I know you're busy. I know I have work schedule. I can make time anytime. I'm really good at that.
Yeah. My answer is busy, but yes.
Okay.
So, no, it's awesome, man. Just how it has happened. Yeah. And literally, I think too, I thought the same thing. I said, you know what? Because before, when you were kind of, going through things in life, I didn't see you. I didn't have a face to you. I just had a name. And so I think I was praying for you, talk and praying about you for, I don't even know, before Debbie, kind of connected you. We were just probably, I didn't even know who you were. I could have just bumped into you. I probably did bump into you at Wawa, like, yo, man, watch where you're going. Like, just kept on going. But I think I prayed for you probably like 5 to 7 months.
Before I showed up at her house?
Yeah, before you showed up, because we were just interceding for everything that was going on in your life and all the attacks and all those quote unquote demons that you were facing. I didn't have to know what you looked like, that you did a podcast. It was just the sake that God gave me the heart, and He even put it on my heart to say, we don't know who Joseph is, but Him telling me Joseph, Him saying Joseph is one of mine, so care for mine as you care for me. And I said, bet.
Yeah,
I'm doing it. So, and then, when I was talking with the ladies too, and speaking about that too, is just kind of where I was at. They also said that, Joseph did, a podcast. I think it was even before. It was when you came in. I did not know we were just kind of there. I think you were there. I think at the time Duncan was there, and just,
Yeah, Duncan and I were coming. Dara was coming a few times. At the time, I don't think I was doing the podcast, but then I started it shortly after you left, I think.
Yes, okay.
And then I think there was a few times you were at the prayer house when I wasn't. And somehow, like, I didn't even know you knew about the podcast. Like, one time I showed up and you were there and like, oh, hey, man, I heard you at the podcast. I listened to one episode. It's great. I'm like, oh, I'm glad you like it. I'm trying to process this whole thing now because I haven't seen you in 9 months.
Yeah, right.
But it was kind of crazy. And then, like, the ladies at the prayer house were like, you two should be iron sharpens iron immediately. Like, you guys are the only guys here. You should be, like, together. And I'm like, should I?
Yeah, and I was.
Do we just like be forced into friendship here?
I was just kind of like forced. Nah, we're good. So my thing was too. It's funny you said that because I said no, I'm not doing this unless it's intentional, unless it's genuine, because that's what I got from you. You're someone who wants to do something intentionally and not just waste time, but also that you want to do it genuinely. And after that, I just did one of those. You know how someone is trying to like connect you, like, hey, maybe you and so and so should hang out, and you're not friends, and you don't, and you're not gonna be friends. You just do one of those weird, like, that's a good idea, and like turn back around. I was just kind of like, that's what I was doing, but I did it with the intent of, just wanting to know who you are. And like, we literally had within like 9 to 11, like maybe 2 hours. about praying for each other and just talking and trying to, get each other and kind of catch personalities, stuff like that. So, just kind of taking those risks. But one of the things too, even, besides like, yes, I did listen to the podcast, and I was just kind of like, cause Debbie was sharing about it, and I was like, because we were praying for you, and because you were just you were that person, and honestly, and I do believe, you may not see this, I do believe you are a success. You are someone who is taking from where you came from and where you're even still struggling with and going through and fighting with now, and you're still wanting to focus and continue on and do your best. So that was just something, that was a drive for me. So that even helped me. Even when I left, there was a time to where I go to my church or I go somewhere else and be like, hey guys, there's a guy named Joseph. Do not know him personally, but we're going to pray. And like that spreads to wildfire. And man, like when people are praying for you, prayer is not just a wish. It's not just the sake of, just kind of throwing something up there. It truly is a direct line to God, speaking authority and saying, hey, like we need help, or hey, we wanted to do this in your name. We want to strengthen it and bring it back to you, like a rebuilding. And it was just to where it was like, that was my idea. It was like, and I'm actually glad I didn't know you had a podcast before, because everything was just genuine. It was like, I don't even know who he is. He could either be the greatest guy in the world, the scum of the earth, but we're going to pray for him. So it was just like that. And after that, it was just kind of like, you came in and, we kind of just connected and just kind of talk here and there and just, laugh at certain things. And it wasn't until, I heard the podcast and I let it go. And I think I heard about another one too. And I just enjoyed it. I was like, man, I just like his heart. I like how he gets passionate in it. And, the ladies were saying, hey, maybe they should kind of do things together. And I said, no, it has to be intentional. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until, they were talking about you, Prager, you and everything and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And, I was just like, I remember I was talking, I was like, Lord, cause initially, I've have done a lot of, performing as well as trying to get things together. And a lot of the things too was a lot of things, whether like YouTube or podcast, I said, I only do that if I'm with someone, who is also in it and, who is devoted. Cause I can do a lot of like, things that are interesting and also groundwork that people don't want to do for the sake of the mission. I'm like a big picture person. So when I thought about that, I said, you know what? Joseph can be that person. But I said, only if he tells me it's okay, because one is his, because I'm partnering with you. And even when it comes to certain things, just even, it doesn't have to be a spiritual thing, but we partner with God to fulfill our giftings in this and influencing people, our passion. But, just I said, you know what? He has to give me the okay. I'm open for it. And whatever I can do, I will do, but he has to give me the okay. And so I just sat about it. I said, prayed. He said, Lord, if you got it, if that's what you want, let's do this podcast. If not, there's no harm, no foul. I will keep listening to him because this man is interesting. I don't care what any of the haters say, but and I would just keep supporting the way I was just kind of literally coming, praying for you, talking with you, kind of, and then but keep it like that. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until last time, I think it was right before the election day, and my goodness, and we I know I just see the steams coming through, so I'll let you go in a little bit, but we talked about it, and a good amount of us had very similar views between the election plus COVID. And I literally was, I think I was I sitting next to him? No, I was. I think I was.
From me, right?
Yeah. And I just felt like, I'm not even trying to be like funny or even trying to, be exaggerated. I felt like a radiated heat was stemming from this man. And I was like, let this man talk, like inside. And I was like, he needs to get it off. And as he was speaking, I was like, man, not only do I see a lot of truth in what I was hearing, but, and being actual, but like literally it was the fact that he was just passionate about it. And that I seen like a heart passion. I seen like a tie. Even that's not saying that's the most passionate thing he's in the world, but like he was really wanting to speak on a lot of things. And I was just like, I ended up, I had to leave because I was going to a job that I got fired from. But but I ended
fired
up
from and rehired.
Oh
too.
yeah, and rehired for Monday. Oh, I despise you, job. Anyway, and I said, you know what? I feel like, because two of the things I found out about his talents that he has that it matches with mine is that he is good at communication. He can express, he can write. He also listens. He can also counter, which I enjoy. And also as well have a, he's not a robot. We didn't come on here, and I like when we disagree, because he didn't come on here and say, hey, Phil, so-and-so. And I'm like, hey, Joe, I agree. And you agree. We don't. We disagree, and that's fine. We're human beings. We can disagree. That's fine. And agree too, but we can disagree when we really don't agree. And that's what I enjoyed. And I was like, he has the talent of communication, to express, to listen, to write, to do those things, to pitch it out, and also to attract and to, do it more intuitively. But he also connects with people. Homelessness was one of the bigger things that he was speaking of, and I knew that was one of his hearts. But even also even in the sense of this, not that we're speaking to homeless people, but we're speaking to us, we could be. And, there's the possibility it's open that we're speaking to them, but also helpless people. And not so much in the sense of probably like the physical and in the sense that the homeless go through, but there's a sense that people need from what we're saying and what we're talking about. And I feel like that is the deep drive, besides him wanting to express, is for those who are listening, his audience, and those who are be listening to this. There's a niche in there, and I feel like God is going to give it to him, and specifically who it is, and that's going to drive it even more and make it go farther. But there's someone, and there's a group of people who need what is going to be spoken through Joe on this podcast. And it was just a simple fact to where, I recognized that, and I was just kind of like, you know what? That's someone who I can speak with. Like, even if, and I even said this, I said, even if, and that's another thing too, when you're choosing people to do things with, whether it's on whether it's on a professional scale or on a personal scale, if they can't do it in a room, like if I could not speak with Joseph right now without the mic, without possibly doing this for pay, or for possibly doing it for any type of thing besides just actually getting to know and hear what he's saying and just connect heart to heart, that's not the person you should be doing something with. Unless it's just a business deal and decision, and you're just doing it for a season, and that's for the sake of it's coming together, you're merging for a deal. I mean, that's fine. Just be cautious. But when it comes to those things of like if you're in business for yourself, like an owner, a co-owner, a partner, if you're doing a podcast and you're doing it for the sake of, someone who's going to kind of be that co-person who comes in, or maybe it's like you're just working with someone in general, work with someone who actually has a heart for the things that you do, and even in the sake that, your heart connects with their heart and they're actually speaking about things. Because if not, you're just kind of two people just working in separate directions, trying to get the same goal and get the same result, when really it's not going to work like that, because you're not both in it like that. And even to the point to where even if one is more passionate than the other, it's to the simple fact that they want to, in one sense, die to self and merge with someone and want to be able to help, fulfill a vision. Where I'm at in life too, I always thought I was the number one guy. Like, I'm going to do it. You guys are going to follow me. The biggest smack in the face to my pride, which is starting to break down, was, no, you're going to be building people. And it's like, you're going to be connecting. So a lot of the stuff, you're going to be the number two. You're going to be the partner. You're not going to be the main thing. And a lot of that, what it was doing, one, it was building me to be one, if that's the possibility. But also, God uses us and he uses people to kind of connect and to those things. That's why I said my favorite number is 2, because it's not just one going in its own way. It's 2 working together and being unified. So, yeah, man. But yeah, I saw your face when you were talking about the COVID thing. So I'll let you go.
2 things regarding all of that. You mentioned media. Is it audio or is it more visual for you?
So initially, I'll even give you some background. So initially, I actually, even where I came from with the radio, I've been doing acting. So a lot of it has been the voice acting, but a lot of it too has been, different things like that. As well, outside of that, within media, it was in the sake of film as well, film industry, and that was specifically where I was going in one essence. I was working with the radio and getting into television, so specifically a lot of the production, a lot of those things of kind of putting a production together. And now specifically where I'm at now is more like of the audio sense and of getting that together, because where I'm at right now, it's to communicate, God's truth, is communicate truth, is to use my voice. So I'm on the audio spectrum, but a lot of it was media production, audio production, radio, television, film, and in that sense. And I may return back to film and television. Oh, COVID, you ruined it for me. But you know what? It's fine, because look what's happening. Look how it kind of slowed me down to do a podcast. Like, right. if I was moving at a speed again, and I was with a film production, or I was able to, because initially I was trying to be in like filmmaking as well, like producing was specifically where I was going besides being in front of the camera, but like producing and directing was a big thing. Like, if I did that, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be literally here. So sometimes it's good to kind of, let your plan, even if you write your plans and they get tossed in a fire and twisted and turned, just know. Or even if it's like a plan that's so gold and it's like, oh man, this thing's like gold. Like when you throw gold into a fire, it refines.
Right.
So you may not see it the way you do, but it may turn out the way in a different way that works out best for you. So yeah, that was where it was. Media production was more initially. It was filmmaking was the main thing. But a lot of working within the sense of like performing when it came to like voiceover, voice acting, doing the radio stuff. I was like, man, my voice needs to work before I do anything. Like, and that's the main thing. Like, people see you, people like you, but it's the person, it's the man of integrity, it's the woman of integrity, it's the person who's true, it's the person who's real. And I think for me, it starts with the tongue and with the voice. So, and yeah, man. So that's where I'm at, and just it's all over. So
no. You don't get it. You don't get the peak. You don't see the picture here.
Huh? Give it to me.
I want to do voice acting. I love my voice when I hear it.
Yes, I do too.
Sometimes I don't love my voice. Like I'm battling that. When I released the first episode, all my friends are like, "Your voice is amazing. You have the best." Like even like acquaintances were like, "You have the best podcast voice I've like heard in forever." One of my friends, when I jumped on my friend's podcast, he was like, shout out to Ben's Learning Lounge, by the way, go check him out. He was like, so he asked the question near the end of the podcast, so when are you going to release an ASMR? And I was like, but point being, I wanted to pursue my voice because I love using it.
Yeah.
Second, I suck when it comes to technology. I can figure this stuff out. To me, this is more like hardwire. I can figure this stuff out. When it comes to like, I've also been considering maybe I should start filming things. But I'm not too great when it comes to creating image, to creating, to filming and things like that. Like,
right.
I love getting behind the camera. I love the camera. I've thought about pursuing acting as a career. I've like to the point where like a massive, I'd go watch a movie and I'd be like, come out like depressed because I wasn't in that movie.
I know. Same thing. Oh, same.
But, point here is I'm seeing I don't want to be, my concern is I don't want to use you. I want to have you as a friend and not be like, haha, we're so much alike, you should be on my podcast because it's great. Not because like, haha, we're so much alike, God's putting us together for you to be on the podcast and I like you as a person. I always overthink things, so I don't do something terrible because I like you as a person. I think a friendship here is forming. I don't want to jinx anything or anything like of that sort. But I feel like a lot of the gifts we have merge together to form a puzzle that works. You seem to be more interested in and better at things like film related than I am, just basically because you have more experience in it. And I'm not saying that's where your heart lies right now. I'm not saying that's where you're directing yourself, where God's directing you. Because I know you did say you wanted to work more on voice. It's a podcast. We talk.
Yes. What better way?
And then it's really struck me because like I said, I'm not good with the film thing so much. Like I can get the recording, I can get it going, but when it comes to like thinking of great ways to advertise it, like not, I know what you said previously about social media. I'm not throwing you under that bus at all.
Yeah,
I can handle that. For me, it's like I just like post the sound snippet on social media, be like, "Hey guys, podcast," and I'm done because I'm not good with that. And I'm like, "Hey guys, so I want to film this, but I don't know how." Things like that. And so I'm not communicating what I'm thinking very well, but basically what I'm thinking is you have some experience and interest in things that would merge with my current experience and interest in things. Not to mention literally everything I never told you, and you made it sound like I did, but I never ever mentioned my passion for homeless people. You thought of that, and then I said it, and you're like, well, I thought you had that. And I'm like, I've not told anyone.
Yeah.
Like legitimately. I mentioned it at prayer yesterday. But before that, I'd never mentioned it to anyone.
And when you said it, I was like, figures. I wasn't like, wow, really homeless. It was like no figures. Yeah. So.
But it's interesting that you noted like all these gifts that we're having. It's interesting that it's all connecting. I don't want to presume that God is connecting things now for this to happen now. I don't want to be like, we should jump into this head first. You should be my co-host because I don't want to be like what happened with my friend Trevor, where it was like, we should do this. And he was like, yeah, we should. And then we did one episode and it was like, fudge, I can't commit to this. And I'm not saying you're going to be like that. I'm saying I don't want to jump the gun. I'm being cautious. Maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe this is the time where I should not be cautious. I need to decide if God really is calling me to do this podcast, even though like I still enjoy it. I still want to do it. It's something that's like on my mind. I need to do. Like every day I'm like, I should do the podcast. part of my brain is saying, no, we shouldn't do the podcast. We should play video games, which immediately is a red flag to me being like, I probably should be doing the podcast. Point being, I think we have gifts. I think we have interest in each other as a person. I'm not trying to make this purely like logical, fact only, but like I think we have interest in each other's people. But I think this could work into something.
Agreed.
We have to figure whatever that is.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I enjoy writing. I enjoy talking. I enjoy thinking and communicating. And you are similar in that boat. And then you're like letting me have free reign on COVID. I didn't realize, because by the way, per the room we were in, I was kind of over to the right and off to an angle from you, and you were across the room. You could look at me. You were like maybe 10 feet away, and you're like, you could feel the heat coming out. Legitimately, when politics comes up, my brain goes, what do I know? What can I contribute to the conversation? And why is that person an idiot? And why are they talking? Because I don't like. I'm very blunt.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Yeah, I know. You guys already know. I've just. I guess it could just be possibly part of my talent, my skill. There's people who just do not get people. So when they see Joe or meet Joe, depending on their personality, stuff like that, they probably think he's the most arrogant person in the world. But how he says things and how he is, like, because of just how I've been with people in my experience, I was like, I like that guy, and I know where his heart lies. So it's like a lot of things are more blunt and more direct, but it doesn't mean equals destruction and chaos and crazy. Terrible person. No, it doesn't. It's just how he's expressing himself, and that's how he is. And a lot of things is logical, and a lot of things are just direct. So, yeah, man, don't ever apologize for that. Like, that's always interesting. I see it too, because I remember we were at the prayer house. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
And you were saying certain things, and this is like, you're like, stupid, dumb, and one lady was looking like she was gonna die.
I know. I saw
I'm just kind of like, I'm looking at her like with my eyes like, calm down. He didn't blow up a building. He was just talking about something directly, and it's like it's a personality thing, and I think God has kind of allowed me to do that, and just how I've been as a person has just allowed me to like be around different personalities. And even too, I mean, Joe would know this, and just he knows, like, even like looking at like Joe Rogan, who we like, it's just like he's in there with different people with different personalities, and that's what we need. We can't have the same people with the same personalities, the same walk of life, in the same vicinity as you talking. Like, you don't grow, we don't move, we don't get pushed a certain way, like just certain things, and that's fine.
Being CNN doesn't work.
Oh, yeah. CNN, that needs to burn. We can burn one thing. And I'm not protesting, so people don't come out here with pitchforks and everything. Yeah. We're not doing that. But yeah, if one thing was to burn,
CNN would be nice
it probably would be. Yeah. Sorry, Dad. I know you sitting there for 24/7 and watch CNN. I don't know why. Neither does Mom. But she should probably stop.
Yeah, it's always interesting to note that a lot of older people, like, they turn to CNN and MSNBC.
Yes.
And there was one time my neighbor, before she passed, I went over to her house and just chilled for a little bit, and she was watching MSNBC, and they were talking about COVID, and they were talking about Republican senators and how they were like set to burn down the world, and I was like, this is news.
Yeah.
Why are you giving your opinion? I don't care if you want them to burn and die in hell. Yeah. You are not supposed to say that when you're supposed to be giving me the news. Give me the facts and shut up.
Yeah.
You're
Keep
not
your opinion. Let us form our opinions from where we're at.
Right.
Have your opinions away,
but
don't be biased.
If you want to present your opinion, have an op-ed. Have an opinion show. They exist for a reason.
Yeah.
That's why podcasts exist, because we can mix fact with opinion and then present our worldview to people, and they can accept it or throw it out.
Exactly.
Like, there are millions of podcasts. One of the interesting things I found about podcasts was if you get like 21 episodes, release 21 episodes, you're in the top 1% of all podcasts.
Wow. Didn't know that.
Because people just give up. So I'm at 9, and I'm like, I need to keep climbing.
Yes!
I need to keep climbing. I'm at 9. I'm so glad I'm at 9.
Yeah.
But then I see Rogan, who's at 1,760, and I'm like, how?
It's hard, man. It's kind of like, too, like, just like, and not to say that obviously like, you're comparing, but it's like,
yeah, I shouldn't compare with somebody who's very successful. He's been doing it for 10 years.
Who's there?
I've been doing it since April of this year.
Yeah, and look how far. I mean, honestly, like, depending on like the average for how you've been, like, those in your quote unquote competition or in your area, they've already probably thrown like all their equipment out the window already.
Right.
They're still going. Like episode 9, like it's 9, and Rogan has like quadruple 1,000 that, but like, look where he's at. Look what it took. Look what he has. You know what I mean? And also too, it's like, look what we have. Look what we're working with. Like, later on, and I always say this with anybody, even if this was not, and it's not going to be, but this is the last that I ever see Joe and everything. Like, let's say we were to stay strong or even stay in contact on and off for years, and later on he's at that Joe Rogan type of like level. We're gonna sit back and laugh at this, like, I had to do like this the whole time, and I'm moving forward and moving out from the mic.
What he's talking about is, so like I said, we had one boom mic and one like tiny little stand that's like maybe 8 inches tall, and I was like, I can give you the boom mic. He was like, no, whatever's more comfortable for you. And I was like, come on, Phil, come on. But like, I love the boom mic because I could adjust it and move it. And Phil is taller than I am. That's why I asked how tall you were, because like, when I hug you, I'm like, why? It feels like you're 6'2", 6'3", because I'm like I'm either 5'9" or 5'10". Like, I went to the doctors back when I was going through these health problems. 3 different doctors. They said I was 5'8", 5'9", and 5'10".
Ooh.
3 different doctors. So I was like, I don't know how tall I am. And then I went up to visit my sister recently, and she was like, I was with a bunch of friends, and my friends are taller than me, but one's like 5'11", the other's like 6 foot. She was like, I'd say you're 5'10". And I measured with some friends back down here, and my one friend is definitely 5'9", and I'm taller than him, just slightly.
Confirmation.
So I'm like, I'm at least 5'9" and a half, if not 5'10". And my goal is to be taller than my dad, who was 5'8", and I'm taller than my dad. I know that for a fact. So I'm at least 5'9", and I think an inch and a half, 2 inches taller than he is. So I think I'm 5'9", 5'9" and a half, 5'10", somewhere in there. And so when we like embrace, because I don't know, but if you don't hug your friends, I think you're weird. Even though I thought it was weird at first, I still find like when I hug my friends, I'm like, it's okay. You're allowed to hug your guy friends.
It is.
But like when Phil and I like embrace each other as a greeting, I'm like, holy cow, this guy is so tall. And then it's like, and then he's like, I'm only 6 foot. I'm like, I think your doctor's still lying to you. I think you're closer to like maybe 6'1", 6'2", or something like that.
That'd be great.
Because I don't, because like Duncan's older brother is 5'11" and a half.
It is, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that you're like at least an inch taller than him.
Wow, okay.
Because I know Duncan's at least 5'10" and a half. He's taller than I am, just slightly. I know. I'm expecting Duncan to be taller than him. His mom is tall. My mom is not. My mom is 5'6", is tall-ish. She's got tall brothers and uncles or whatever. But
Gotcha.
so I get my height from her side of the family, and my skinniness. Actually, my uncle was like 130, 40 pounds at 6'1".
Okay.
So it was like it's not abnormal for me to be this skinny. I just don't like being this skinny. But on the topic of COVID.
Yeah.
So my job has a mask mandate. So I have to wear a mask all day.
Yeah, that's true.
But here's the thing. Chick-fil-A, Arby's, Domino's, AutoZone, nobody's wearing a mask.
Oh, man.
And I go into those places, and then I come, like the employees, I go to my Wawa, and I'm like, when I first started working at Wawa, I didn't have any, I was like paranoid I was going to have problems with the mask. Nothing surfaced. I was like, fine, I can't have problems. And then I was like, wait, after like 2 months, my lungs start to, like I felt like I had to cough 30 minutes after putting the mask on, and I'd be tired, and I'd have a hard time concentrating. I'm like, am I developing an issue with this mask now? The other day, Tuesday at work, I took my mask off. 8-hour shift. My manager didn't notice. At the end of the shift, one of the other managers comes in, and it's like, gave me a look like, you're still on the clock? I'm like, yeah. She's like, where's your mask? And the assistant manager was like, yeah, where is your mask? I'm like, do you know how long I haven't had this on? He's like, oh, let me guess. Long enough that I should have noticed. I said, the entire day. He's like, wait, you mean, no, great, now I have to crack down on you. I'm like, dude, you only wear a mask. It's the policy. Like, I can get fired. It's like, if you don't wear a mask, you're fired.
It's crazy.
And I'm like, fine, I'll wear the freaking mask, even though it physically hurts to wear the mask. And like, not only that, but morally, it hurts. I put that on, and I'm like, on fire for liberty, and all of that. And then I put the mask on, and it's like, I'm betraying who I am. And it morally hurts, and it's starting to hurt a bit more every time I do it, because I see people coming in, and I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to, but like, people come in, and they're wearing the freedom shirts with like the skeleton on the back, the flag on the front, the guns, and like the maybe like an NRA hat or something like that, and then they got a mask on, and I'm like, why?
Yeah, you're flipping.
I'm like,
two things.
What's going on? Like, I wear the mask because if I don't, I get fired. And my parents are like, Joseph, you can get another job. I'm like, I have to be able to get to that job. I don't have a car right now. Like, I do have a car, but I don't have my license. That's the more of the issue. I can't drive anywhere without a license. So if I can't find a job that's close enough, and then you know how you were being like, I really hope I get fired from this job and all that. I'm the same way.
I felt that too.
I'm the same way. And not only that, but like when they announced the vaccine mandate, I was like, go through. I can get fired. Yes. I can quit. And then the federal judge stymied it. I'm like, no, I shouldn't be saying no, but like I want to quit.
Right.
Can I have an actual reason to quit? And then I talked to my manager. I was like, so will Wawa have a vaccine mandate for us? And he's like, Wawa will never force you to get the vaccine. I'm like, oh my gosh. He's like, but you will have to be tested every week for COVID. And I was like, I'm torn. Because like, do I just be like, that's my excuse. That's how I'm getting out of Wawa. Because I don't want to be like, if God wants me there, I don't want to be like, I'm out. Bye, God. Screw Wawa. I'm done. I'm going to go be lazy or just go do something that's easier. Or just whatever it is, I still can't figure it out because like your philosophy on the whole work thing is really throwing a wrench in my thought process.
It's interesting, yeah. I mean, it's even too. I mean, like I feel like it's gone to a point to where I know what my faith is like with different things. I was like, even I was talking about like like faith and logic, which could be a different for a different day, just like an interesting topic. But yeah, there's even times to where I feel like I allow one to be stringent from the other, where it's like, all right, well, I'm doing something like, God, you want me to do this? God, you want me to do this? And I feel like sometimes God's like you have the ability to do it, so
right.
Just do it. Like
right.
Even like if I guess I can kind of say for your situation, like like you could probably do whatever when the time is available, but like closest thing to you.
Mm-hmm.
Cars coming, like the mandate, you never know, could be whatever it is. So it's like, I feel like we have the ability and we have the freedom to, and honestly, I mean, I can not go back and go find something else.
Right.
But it's like when I have a certain pull, to be there for a while, if I see something that's there, or even, it could be the fact that I'm, for me, my job is paying off like the student loan and getting it off. And, it's been helping. That's the only thing that's it's been, but the fact that, I don't want to be the guy that's like, all right, like doing something, I find a venture or I find an opportunity, I find something, I'm like, all right, Lord, like, am I okay? Like,
right.
Am I good? Because then God is kind of like, it doesn't work like that.
Right,
so I'm trying to find like a really good balance of being like direct, like, and even really hearing the voice of God. I know people have said that, but like really hearing what that looks like, what it is. So I'm still trying to develop that and be, but where I'm at and what fits my situation of like paying off the loan. I get weekends off so I can, do stuff like, things like that. Like my homeless thing, like think about that, like my homeless outreach and stuff like that. They're usually Saturdays.
Right.
Churches are Sundays. Those are two commitments in my life. So I'm like, okay, that fits. It's close by. Like all those things that help in this season of life. And also paying off the loan, it matters to have this job.
Right.
So I can go and pick off something different that works different, and I initially will. But where I'm at now, until things are more satisfied or something opens up, I'm gonna be at this job type deal. Yeah.
Right. So I initially put in for Wednesdays and Sundays off because Wednesdays I hang out with my friend Duncan. Sundays I was like, to me, I don't feel right. I don't feel comfortable working on Sundays. So I was raised, like Sunday's the Sabbath, whatever. Mm-hmm. To me, my brain automatically, I wake up Sunday morning and my brain switches into, you can get up at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's okay.
There you go.
And I'm like, all right, great, bet. And then they're like, I can't work Sundays. As I'm going forward, like I graduated high school, my manager was like, full-time, without asking you, full-time. That's why I'm working a 36-hour week this week, because he was like, full-time.
Goodness.
And I was like, I can't, I do not want to work 5 days a week. It's not worth my time. It is worthless. I don't think working at Wawa is worthwhile. People have been telling me like, but benefits. I don't want to work at Wawa until I'm 55.
Yeah. And these benefits that we hear, like the big companies are like Amazon, Wawa, or Walmart, like they're not the greatest.
You get a 401k and you can invest in the stocks. Great. Like if you stay, you really do have a chance to become a millionaire when you retire. When you're 65 or 55.
And depending on how the economy things are going, we could be retiring if we stayed at our actual job. 65 can turn to 70. You never know.
Right. And the best way to make money is to be a manager because you make six figures. And I'm like, I don't want that I don't want that job. Part of me is afraid that part of me has been feeling like I should be working full time at Wawa, and then just like, but then that's always connected to doing nothing else. And I feel like God's not the type of person who's being like, that type of being is gonna be like, yeah, I really think it's really great and healthy for you to go work at Wawa and come home and become a zombie. Because I don't think that's how God designed us. In fact, when we were doing, Duncan's older brother has a Bible study that we're part of, and he said, I disagree that our purpose is to bring glory to God. I think it's part of it, but I think a major part of it is to become better people, to be skilled, to be healthy, to learn, to help other people, not just bring glory to God, woohoo, everything you do is for God's glory, but more of we're designed to learn and grow and gain skills and read books and do podcasts and work out and eat healthy. He said, I think that's more so what our purpose in life is than just to, hey, God, I'm working this job. I hate it. Well, because you, God, I have to love it and bring glory to you.
Yeah. I think my thing when it comes to that too, because I actually fight that notion too. I came to the conclusion, like, even what we're doing here to those things, like even when it's like bring glory to God, I look at it to where it's like whatever we're doing, whatever we are, like the whole sense of, learning a skill, getting better, those things, like it's all that in our design, and it's like pointing back to him. That's kind of where I look at it. I think too, it's very interesting. We can always, get deeper into it, but it's like it's like to bring glory to God. I see it as a, one, it is to say that, he's God and we are his creation and we're able to reflect in him in a loving sense and still do that. But like a lot of these things, a lot of like the skills that we want to learn, these certain things, these heart passions, I believe is from him. And I believe like, it's like one of those, like getting a superpower and doing it for good or doing it for a villain. Like I do believe that, it's, we get that in the essence of doing it for good, but it's doing it for God. Like in the sense of like, it's more of like we can achieve those things, not so much of like, hey, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna sell all what I got and whatever God has, I'm gonna do that on an island. It's like no, like that podcast you like that, like those uniquenesses, like those personalities, like this is God. I want you to use it. Right. Like, and it's just kind of like, it's funny too. Actually, this is random. I kind of looked at it too when we were talking about because the imagery came in my head and it's very basic, but it's definitely you, for the mask mandate. And it was just kind of like when you said, it's taken away from me. I don't feel like myself. I feel like my freedom is gone. I feel like I can't be me. And it's like, what are we doing right now? We're talking. Right. What does the mask cover? What does the mask cover? Your voice, your mouth.
Not only that, but like working at Wawa, I'm not me.
No,
like I don't talk like this at Wawa.
Oh, no.
I talk more like a gangster because everyone who comes in, they're like quick. Yep. And I'm like, okay, then how do I talk in a way that they will hear me?
And through everything that you do, everything that you're interested in, even now, everything that you're doing is a connection. One of the big things you can't do in Wawa in your position is to connect.
Right.
And it sucks. It's like, hey, yo, what you doing? You want this? Got this. You want cigarettes? Cool. You want, and it's just right. Like that. And that's one of the reasons I can't even, I'm not even going to say that's, I am going to say one of the reasons, because you're like, when you speak about Wawa, it screams at me. It's like, I can't connect with people. I do not like this place.
I crave connection and I crave hard work. Like, I hate, like, I'll play Minecraft and like, we have to make a farm in Minecraft. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. It's hard work. Duncan, can you do it for me? He's like, but I don't want to. And I'm like, fine, I'll do it. And I do it and I get it done. But what I really crave, the most fun that I have had while working is I worked for my church for a while. And I could listen to podcasts while I worked. It was heaven.
Yes.
I can't do that at Wawa.
I know.
But like, it was physical. And then there were times where I would interact with people, whether it was with food ministry, help them. Helping people in food ministry brought me so much joy. I actually had to reshape my mind and be like, God, okay, fine. Help me to do this job with joy. And they did. I still woke up in the morning and be like, I don't want to go to work. To go to work, it'd be great. Like near the end, I was starting to get like, I was kind of growing a lazy habit. So I was like, I don't want to be here. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But it was still, in part because I was only working 1 day a week. And it was like just cleaning bathrooms. And that's okay. Like,
I had the same
podcast.
Job. I literally had the same job cleaning bathrooms at a church.
I don't mind it. Like, I don't mind it, but like, it was lacking the connection with the people at food ministry. But like the physical aspect, because food ministry was talk to people, help people, lift boxes that weighed quite a bit. My favorite part at Wawa, it's fuel. I love doing fuel because I'm outside. I can talk to my coworkers and I can talk to customers, sometimes longer. And sometimes it's hectic. I got to run, but it's not like my brain is going to fry. Because like if I work drinks in the morning, it's like beep, 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 Then I've got like 12 coffee things that need to be remade, and it's too crazy. But what I've found is I like connection. I love talking. I love listening. I also need physical. Like, there's a cooler in Wawa. You get a stock. It's got like the drinks and stuff in there, like the sodas and the water and the milk. A few times I've done it. It was so awesome. Like, there are definitely times I'll be checking the clock. Like, I want to go home. Can I go home? But it'd be like I can use earbuds, listen to podcasts, and just like physically do things. It was like a constant of doing things that I was just like, oh, this is awesome. But that's what you're right. I don't get the connection working at Wawa. It's not the job for me because I can't connect. Yeah. It's your job is drinks. If there's no drinks to make and no coffee to take care of, you need to go do something else. Which is why I miss working at my church. Because it was like, yes, I was expected to work and work to the best of my ability, but I was also expected to think up of ways to do it. My first boss was like, if you can think of a way to do this better and easier and more efficiently, tell me. And then we'll see if it works. If it doesn't, bye-bye.
That's a lovely boss right there.
He was great. There were some things that weren't so great about him, but he was great. And then the boss who came in after was the same way. He was like, do it however the heck you want to do it. I don't care. If it gets done, do it. Like, he was more lenient about it, and that was great. And he would sit and listen to me. He was a missionary in China before. And I talked to him, like, my mom was like, you should talk to him about missionary work, because if that's so passionate on you, you should talk to him. I did. He was like, no overseas. Don't do it.
Really?
He's like, if God's calling you, do it. But like, I don't think it's wise.
Agree. Okay.
He's like, I don't think it's wise.
Okay.
I think missionary work, this is him saying it, not me. I think missionary work is moved from overseas to a need for it to be here.
Agreed.
Everyone told me this. Everybody was like, I was panicking about having to go to like Africa and give up my life here and have to stop enjoying pleasure and things like that. And everyone was like, dude, we need people here. Everybody. Like, my mom, my friends, the missionary person who went to freaking China when he was like 20, 30 years old. I'm like, God, are you trying to tell me something? Are you trying to tell me that my calling is like here somewhere? And you earlier you mentioned how like the whole asking God to give you direction, and then if he doesn't, you just not do anything. That's me. Like 100%. I'm like, the whole reason why I haven't chosen a career partly is because I'm like, well, if I talk to God, then I still feel guilty about not pursuing anything that's missionary related. So I just won't talk to God. So then I can't feel guilty or pressure to go do missionary work. But then I also wander from him, but then I get stagnant. I'm like, I play video games and I go work at Wawa, which I hate. I never thought I'd be 18 years old and being like feeling like I'm 50 years old and trapped in a job that I don't like.
Yeah.
But like, it's also another thing that he's been telling me is, Joseph, I love you so much, but stop waiting for me to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
I will tell you as you do it. And my mom's like, Joseph, God doesn't give us the whole picture, because I'm a big picture person.
Yep.
He's like, he said his word will be a lamp unto our feet, not a lamp unto the entire world. A lamp shines a light where? I'm like, don't do this. She's like, where's the light shine? I'm like, right in front of us. She's like, yeah, where you're walking one step. I'm like,
yeah,
you're right. I know I should be trusting God to lead me, but I really would much rather him show me the full path so I can make my decisions and be good.
Story of my life.
Yeah, just be like, here. And I'm like, awesome. Thank you so much, God. Yay, I'm going to be a truck driver. Not that I will be, but like, that's great, God. Thank you for showing me this. Instead, and he's like, Joseph, you could be missionary. You could not. You could be an actor. You could not. You could be a great podcast host, or you could not. Your choice.
You could probably do all of them in different seasons of your life.
Right. I have a hard time with that because, like I said earlier, it's like when I'm involved in something, my brain's like, this is what. So I have a hard time thinking about quitting Wawa or moving to a new job, even transferring stores, because like, that's where I'm at. And that's where I must stay until I am released.
Where's that coming from? Where did that start? How is that? I was always like, I was thinking about that too. I was like, man, where's the origin of that? Where's that coming from?
I'm all in or nothing.
Okay.
I don't know where that comes from specifically. It might come from my persistence. Growing up, my parents were very much so. I recognized it myself. I was given a job. I jumped on that job and I did it. I didn't stop. Nothing. It could be 85, 90 degrees out, 100% humidity. I wouldn't stop. I just did it. If I had a project I wanted to do here, like let's just say something I want to build, I would get emotionally overwhelmed. I'd walk away for like a second and come back and like, I'm not leaving until this is done. And I finished it. It was great. It was awesome. I felt so happy at the end. But then add a negative self-talk into that and a feeling of part of the whole thing is with this humility thing, or fake humility. I can't decide which is which at this point, is I tend to not allow myself the freedom to be like, yes, I'm allowed to be famous. Like, not pursue fame, but in doing what I love doing, become rich or become famous. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I know pursuing fame is a terrible thing, and I've had to fight my way back down from that. Because there have been times I've really just craved being famous.
Yeah, I think too, like you wanting to like reach people and be well known. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think too, like even for the sake of fame, if it's just like, oh, I just want to be known, want people to love. I think it's like the heart thing, and it's like, all right, like if in your heart it's like, okay, I want people to know who I am and be at the top, to be able to do something meaningful, and not so much make the spotlight on me. I get that. I say go for it because you're actually trying to do that. You'll be a public figure. You'll be on a pedestal for a reason, but it's for a reason. But if you're just like, yeah, I just care about myself and I want to get famous and I just want to be the next so and so, you probably won't get there because
right. No, because that doesn't carry you, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why I don't think I'm going to be a famous actor if I do any acting at all. Is because my whole part of the whole drive behind it was I want to be famous. I want to have money. I want to be known. I want people to know me.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a nobody. And I'm like. But that ties into the whole working thing, because it feels wrong for me to create a business of my own if it means it can lead to me having money or being more famous.
So what's the purpose of doing it then?
Well, because my brain says that I should be humble in everything, which means my brain equates that to being poor, to being a selfless giver, to being someone who's really joyful despite having nothing. That's what my brain equates humbleness to. So it doesn't equate humbleness to you can be rich and famous by God's design and still be humble. My brain equates it to you work at Wawa and you love it and you will always love it and you will help people and you'll be awesome and happy, and that's what God wants.
So we identified the lie then.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, because you already know this, like to the fact that honestly, even too, I feel like it's not even to where, like you're humble or you have this or where you're at. I think it's like when you get to either one, what you do with that and how you carry yourself is where that humility comes from. So I think you can, and I'm pretty sure you can see like yourself, like literally even like talk to yourself these things like, how many people are humble at Wawa? Who really is humble at Wawa? Wawa's not even humble at Wawa.
Right. I don't know very many. I don't think I know anybody who's humble at Wawa. I know people who are self-depreciating. I fall into that category from time to time. I think a lot of people are like, well, I'm a great worker. Whether they're saying that in jest or not, I think there's a seed of I'm a great worker in there, of pride. A lot of people are like, well, I know my job and I'm the best at my job. And some of that, you need that confidence. If you're not confident in yourself, another thing, I gotta become confident in myself. It's another, I don't trust myself.
It's that scale again. Remember we were talking about, like, it's funny. I just didn't know, like with the whole confidence thing, I walk in, even now, I have to have a level of confidence to speak with you. This is me personally, because then I'll be like, hey, Joseph, I'm here, and thank you for your time. And,
right.
It's just like, and it's not the fact that we have to be fully confident. We can have you have insecurities, I have insecurities. We're still doing the darn thing, right?
Right.
So it's just like, I feel like too, and I'm more situational too, for me, like one of my characteristics, my character of my life, and I think sometimes too, I kind of submit to it when it comes to like my personality. Like I want to have a heart of humility. That does not really mean like I'm going to be this very quiet, stoic person who's like, who every time, shake someone's hand, well, thank you, and the baby comes, I will sign the forehead of your baby and kiss it. Like it's just like, and be very quiet and not say anything. Like, but at the same time, it's just like it's a heart issue. It's a fact. Like, what do you do with that? I mean, confidence is a sake of kind of stepping out and doing it. And if you know you're good at something, like there's a balance to where it's like, I know that I'm good, and I let my actions speak for my word. But yes, I say I am good at it. Like if I'm rich, like yes, I'm rich. I'm not going to be like, well, I'm comfortable. No, I'm making a lot of money, Joseph. And it's just like, or I can just turn it and be cocky and say, well, yeah, I make money all the time, and these people are poor, and it's like it's an attitude. It's simply an attitude, but it's so easy to lose. It's always going to be shifting. It's always going to be shifting. I always find it interesting to when people say life is a balance, and I say life is a tilt, and we keep tilting until we finish the race. Then we've evened out. So I just kind of look at it like that. So like humility is one thing, but yes, like you can be humble and you can be rich. There are people who even too, like you can be humble, not know God and be rich. Like even like to where like certain things God has allowed and given. But like, yeah, man, that whole thing too, like literally everything. We're going to go back. Next time I see a Wawa, I'm just going to scold at the front of the door before I go in because we're just talking about so much. But even to the point to where like you even saying like, you know, since the time, you know, you would work a job and you're like, I do it until it's finished. And I get that and I'm all for it. But when it's like the Wawas of the world, it's an endless bottomless pit.
It is. There is no end to making drinks and checking out customers.
Yeah.
Earlier you mentioned, and I meant to say this much earlier, like I think it was like a solid 45 minutes ago.
Okay.
You're like, I like being number 2 because I want to be number 1. And God is, I have the opposite problem. I want to be number 2. I want to be led. Part of me is the humbleness and the confidence issues is I don't want to be number 1. But then a lot of times God just thrusts me into the place of number 1 where like on Discord servers, I'm like thrown into the admin roles. Like Jordan Peterson and Michaela Peterson both have Telegram groups.
Yeah.
I'm a moderator in both of them.
Awesome.
And that wasn't like, they said, hey, we need moderators. I was like, fine, let me just throw my name in the hat.
Right.
You know, part of me wanted it and part of me was like, I shouldn't get it. But like God has given me this ability to be an influencer over the people I'm around. Like different servers I'm in, different people I meet, like they tend to look up to me. And that doesn't sit well with me because I feel like I should be the one in the background, plugging in lights and being like the background guy. And then God's like you were saying how like you would be the supporting character.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this podcast, like if this is where God is leading us, holy cow, like you're like, I want to be number 1, and God's like, no, you're number 2. And I'm like, I want to be number 2. It's like, no, you're number 1.
Exactly.
And then like it's like I'm the host of the podcast and you'd be the co-host, which means everything has to be, we have to agree on it, but like ultimate decision comes down to me.
Right. And I had to be humbled that way because, like I said, my biggest thing, and even too, when it comes to the sake of humility, which I will never really say, oh yeah, I'm humble. Like, cause I'm just like, that's just a self, you know, told thing. But, and you know, it's really it's actually the reflection of people actually saying it to you and you actually walking in that in action, like I was saying. But like, yeah. And honestly, even too, I always find it funny, like you said, like fake humility, like I'm number 2 because I was kicking and screaming, I couldn't be number 1.
Right.
But I realized through like my selfishness and like my desire to try to be number 1 when I was number 2, things worked. Number 1, things burn. So it's just like one of those things. And it's not that I'll never be number 1 again, right. But it's to the fact that I had to be, I had, well, yeah, I would even say I had to because I was so, because pride and things like that, I say I had obligation because I was so wrapped around these things that I thought was me. Mm-hmm. I had to be number 2 to see that I can still be number 1, but not all the time.
Right.
And know that I can still be a number 1 in a number 2 kind of, you know, position, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But yeah, it just kind of worked like that. It was like, you know, and it just, I guess that was God preparing me in the sake of, you know, like, listen, like, yes, you're going to be, and, you know, and it's just me speaking in confidence of, you know, what God desires of men, you know, that we crave significance, we crave desire, we crave impact. So he said, you know, so I because of those truths, I have confidence. I'm like, I am significant. I can desire, you know, I am, to desire a lot. I am, you know, impactful.
Right.
Why? Because he told me to, because he put that in me. I'll probably never feel it because life sucks and it keeps telling me this and the third, and I have to battle it on a daily day. But that was my mandate. Like he put that in me. Like, you know, so it's just kind of like one of those things too. And I had to just learn and be like, okay, well, I can still do number 1 work and number 2, but a lot of the things, and it's just been a frustration, but it's how I love people, how I depend on people, how I, you know, on those things, which doing that is not, like I was saying even before to you before, like it's not a problem. Look at here. Like, what if I was trying to do the podcast by myself? Like I literally say, you know, depending on if this goes off and I'm not trying to say anything wrong, like, you know, I say, all right, Joseph, see you later, give him a hug. Next thing you know, I walk off in a car. Like that's not going to happen. Hopefully. If so, I'm telling this now and try to get the license plate of the person who did that. But I was just saying that to the point to where it was just a thing in my life, like, you know, I'm God's saying I'm working things through people and through you and through different things, and you can always do things that I'll give it to you. But there's things that you need. And even with me, my biggest thing in life, besides, you know, a lot of insecure things and stuff like that, besides like the suicidal thoughts that I had, and also with you know, depression, was isolation. I isolate myself like crazy. There's been so many times, even within when I was, you know, and I'm still learning, trying to get stuff in film, so I don't really know even the basics to a degree. I'm still building it, but like even with that, there's people who try to come around and put things together with me, and I'm like, nah, I don't really trust you, and I don't really care. I like to do it by myself. Like, that's me trying to be, that's number one, isolated and prideful. So that's all, you know, you can also, you know, tie it in.
Yeah.
So that's why I always look at us, like there was a timing thing. Like, I couldn't be here if you were still going through a certain time in a phase, you know, a year or so back. Like, time had to be aligned, which I say it's a divine weaving that God kind of puts together. That's why we're in this waiting pattern. Like, oh, you're at wow, I'm at this place. Like, what's going on? Like, God's moving people. God's moving things. Like, and people are even like working themselves. Like, there's someone who's going to be leaving, or someone who's going to come into your life and be like, or, you know, and speak something and say, hey, you know, I got this opportunity. It could be, I personally think it's the car. When you get that car, the license.
No, I agree. No,
Yeah.
100%. No. It's like, when I think about it, I think I have one more step. I feel like God's telling me you need to be content with where you are. You need to accept the fact that you're here and stop trying to escape with video games and pornography.
Yeah. Same here.
But that license, that's step number 3. And when we get that, the door unlocks and something else comes.
Right.
But he won't tell me. And it's irritating. He's like, but I do know I need a purpose. I don't have one. I don't have a reason to get up in the morning sometimes. I'm just like, hey, look, I have an off day. Why should I get out of bed? I don't have anything to work on. Nothing to do.
Right.
It's part of me is like, well, what if we just like do the pod? Like, I want to have something to do after work. Rogan was talking about that a bit, and I agree with him. He was saying, what if you just didn't go watch Netflix after you got home? What if you had a passion project that you worked on, and then eventually, what if you made furniture, and then eventually you sold that furniture, and then eventually you made it to the point where that's your business, and you can quit your job and work as making furniture because you love it.
Right.
And I'm like, I need a passion project. And part of me is like, it should be the podcast. And the other part of me is like, but it takes work. We shouldn't do the podcast. I have to actually think through things and make the podcast work. And when you're talking about leadership, God created men to be leaders. He didn't create all men to be leaders all at the same time. And so for me, it's hard for me to be a leader because I feel wrong. It feels like somebody else should be leading. I feel you're like, I should be the leader. But God's like, take a step back.
Yeah.
I don't know why this dynamic exists right now. I don't know why I'm like, because like there are times I just like desperately want to lead because people are morons. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you going that way and doing those things? I can clearly see that's not going to work. You know, well, you think it's going to work, but it's not. It's going to crash and burn. And then when that happens, I'm going to be like, well, sucks to be you.
Yeah, some of it is just like the fact that you know it's getting you going, like just to kind of reinvigorate. Like you're a leader and you see chaotic stuff and is going to help you when you go lead. Other times it just sucks. People have that position and they have that thing, and it's just kind of like I'm not them, and I don't even want to try to play guy because it hurts my soul with people who are quote unquote morons. Right. So it's like I'm just like I don't know. I even think about it with my boss. I'm like, why is he there? Why is he the boss?
Right.
But it's like, okay, if that is the position that he has, I got to keep doing me, and I can't let him deter me, and I got to keep on. And if it's the sake that I have to listen to him, I'm not listening. I'm not subservient to him. I'm not a slave, or I'm not in a bind to him. I'm respecting the position because it's helping me to continue what I got to do until I got to leave. Right. That's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you were saying like you have your weekends off.
Yeah.
I desperately want my Saturdays off. Desperately. Like, my brain has been saying, why do we want Saturdays off? Because I want the day to do something. Yeah. Like, it's most of the time people are free, it's Saturday. And like, I'm working like, let's say I work a 4-day week, it would be like Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then it's Sunday, and then I work Monday the next time. Like, and the whole reason why I don't have Saturdays off right now is because my boss was like, Joseph, I can respect that, and I will honor your wanting for Saturdays off, but it hurts me because I never have enough people for Saturdays. So I was like, fine, you can let me, I'll work Saturdays if you just don't give me more than 4 days a week.
Yeah, it's like compromise.
But like, he would have done it anyway. That's the thing. Yeah. I would have been working Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, give or take, depending on the week. And so part of me has been really tempted lately, like to just re-put in for Saturdays off. I know he needs the help, but at the same time, I want my Saturdays. I want at least the opportunity. Like, I don't care if I have to work. Honestly, my ideal work week, Monday through Friday. I don't want to work all 5. I don't want that. 4 right now seems to be the max that my brain is capable of going through.
So we're looking at 3 to 4.
Yeah. 3 is easy. 2 is way too easy. 1 is like, why am I working? 4 is like, this is okay. This isn't too stressful, but it's borderline too stressful. So like, I'm really tempted to be like, hey boss, Saturdays are mine. Do not schedule me for a 7 to 3 shift where I can do nothing. But at the same time, I was like, but he needs help, so I should defer to him and let him use me.
I think it's interesting. I think you, it's just so many things. I feel like it's leadway. I think when you really can fight past it, do so. I think even too, like everything you're saying too. I don't know if you did this. I always did. This is actually where I do it my job before to get to where I was at now. Because even though I didn't, I'm not so fond of like the job itself is basic. It's something I can do and I can do it. But a lot of the stuff I had issues with is people and company. And people don't really leave. People don't really leave bad. What was the thing? People don't just leave bad jobs; they leave bad bosses and bad leadership. Yeah. So one of the things I was even like kind of like encourage, but also just kind of suggest to you, like you're saying all these things that you don't even that's kind of like just like kind of taken away from like the job, like all these things that you're speaking like just out to me. These are all going to be in your next job, or they should be, because like they like the weekends off, those things. Like even if you get the chance to even sit down in some sense of quietness. Shout out to Joseph's family. As I walked in, everyone was doing something just like wow. But
surprising because they're usually really loud.
Yeah, it's funny because you were telling me about it, and I was like, I thought I was going to come into like blaring music. Like I just
usually that's what happens. Usually my mom's not home, and so they're like, YouTube on right now, video games on right now. Little two youngest two running around screaming like and I'm like, why? I mean, I get it. Some of my siblings are kind of sick right now. They have the cold and all that. But like yesterday they were obnoxiously loud, and today they're just like. I was like, Mom, can you please tell them to be quiet? But that doesn't mean they'll listen. And she said, okay, Joseph's doing a podcast at 4:45. Please don't be too loud. And I wasn't expecting it to work.
Right. But I'm not going to explain, I'm going to even go with here. I'm not going to say anything logical. I'm not going to even say anything spiritual. Like, oh, this was we needed this. Yes. That's all we're going to say.
I agree. We both needed the time to sit down, talk to each other heart to heart. Honestly, I know we wanted to discuss politics and more.
Yeah. And it can get there.
My gut tells me that to go down that direction is the wrong way to go right now.
I agree. And I think too, I am, even with political things, I kind of look at certain things and try to get opinions, but you are also very stronger. So I'll catch myself just listening to you and be like, wow. And you'll be like, what do you think, Phil? I'm sorry, Joe. What did you say? I didn't listen to you. So it was like, I think it's something that we can kind of like balance with. And, but yeah, I mean, like I said, whatever it goes, I'm going to keep this in prayer. And then also, whatever we kind of get, we go. But yeah, just wherever it goes, just let it go. And even from like our talks here, like I just span like 3 or 4 different things that can be on another time.
Right.
And it's just kind of like, it's just huge. But, I forgot even what I was saying with the job thing, like, yeah, all those things that you were talking to me that that you're looking for, I feel like that's all gonna be like this job right now. Obviously, is getting you to know what you don't like.
Right.
Like this is like this is the job. Obviously, you don't like. It's like, and you're getting all those things. And I don't know if you made a list. I would suggest, but unless you have it mentally, and you can, and I honestly, this might even be even more to where Wawa just bleeds out. It bleeds you out so much from you, so you remember these things to where when that next job comes, I literally think that this job it shows you what you don't like. You have a slither of what you can enjoy, which is that connection. It's keeping you somewhere and showing you something, and also it has like a meaning of prolonged time as you get like the license, that you get this thing, because you're literally, like we said, you're just a step or two away from these things. And I'm just kind of like that literally I feel like will change your thing. But I feel like you're just in a changing span altogether. Like everything that you've been working on or working towards that you're trying to, whether it's trying to get that passion project or get that purpose, like it's coming.
I can feel it. I can feel, because I feel like I've been attacked the past couple of weeks, and it's been like, I know my negative thoughts have to change before they kill me, whether literally or like just emotionally.
Right, seriously, yeah.
Because I know where they lead. I've been there. I don't want to go back. I know what happens if you think negatively. In fact, thinking negatively actually shrinks your brain physically. And I don't want a shrunk brain. I want to be able to remember things and be healthy and be happy. My goal ultimately is, and I don't pursue it very well because I keep getting passive, but is to be mentally and physically healthy so that I can then thus be healthy to go do other things. But I've had this feeling that I'm close to a breaking point, like a breaking through into something else. I'm very skeptical. So the whole Pentecostal part of Christianity, I'm like, keep that at arm's length because I still don't trust it. Like when people are like, you're going to have a breakthrough and I can see God moving through you and you're powerful and you're going to have a great influence. And I'm like, I'll believe it when I see it.
There's and there is a sake to where God is able actually to have that prophetic word and people are able to.
100%.
But there's also people who are just very emotional. There's a sake of a faith move from God, and then there's the emotional experience. Like, wow, we really like you, and we think this is going to happen. It's like, keep your opinions. We don't want that.
I love the ladies of the prayer house. I really do. Yeah. But every time they pray for me, it's like I see breakthrough, and I see God moving you in wonderful directions. I'm like, you've been saying that since I came here in January of 2020.
Part of that, I actually, always ask, whenever you're kind of in your time with God, like the discerning is huge because. Even like certain things, people are just like, hey, someone can come up to you and be like, God is telling me this, that, and the third, and to do this and to do this with you and to do this with you. Hey, like some girl can come up to you tomorrow and say, hey, are you Joseph? And he's like, yeah. It's like, hey, God was telling me that I was, that we were, gonna move in together and we are gonna do a podcast. Well, first I would be like, what? Number two,
why are we moving in together? We're not married.
Exactly. And it's like, and like even to the point to where even if it was like something that was like, because that was very like broad and false, but
it'd be like God girl being like, God told me I'm marrying someone named Joseph Salmieri, and I'm like,
my name is John. We'll see you later. Even to the point to where someone was to go with something that's specific, like even things like that, like even like our examples, like certain things that you said. God spoke to me about certain things I've said. God has spoken to you about in a way. Yeah. Even if it wasn't like, hey, Phil, it's just kind of like he gave it to me.
I had a sense when, like the sense I had when we first met was, I think Phil and I are going to be doing something together related to podcasts and media in the future.
Yeah.
I had a sense of it, but I was like, maybe not. Maybe because, maybe it's just me being like,
Right. And it's a sense of like when those certain things, people say things, like even when the ladies say some things, there's a leading, like, okay, there's like a connection, and then there's confirmation. So when that girl says, hey, we're supposed to be doing a podcast together. Well, God didn't tell me that.
Right, exactly.
So it's kind of like.
When did God come and say, Joseph, you're going to be meeting a lady named Rachel and you'll be doing a podcast with her?
Exactly.
Like, I didn't hear that.
And there could be a lady named Rachel that comes in and, later, maybe you're it's the sake of like talking, whatever it is. That's an example. But it's like, even with those things, like even when the ladies pray for us and it's kind of like, I see you breaking the mold. And I think one of them kept saying, you're going to stand in the gaps for blacks and whites. I said, I have black and white friends. I'm not staying in any gap. The only thing I do know is that, that when it comes to certain things like that, or even when it comes to, I think too, they also talking about like mentoring,
They say that a lot about you. I've heard them say it several times.
Yeah.
Where like you're going to mentor people and you're going to lift people up and you're going to be the person that iron sharpens iron. And I love the ladies of the prayer house. Yeah. I know some of them are going to listen to this.
Right.
Don't hear this as me critiquing you. I know I'm very critical. I know I'm harsh. I know I can be. I love you guys. I know there are times when you pray and those things do happen. I know. But every time when you're like, I see God strengthening you and moving you forward and there's breakthrough and I can see a light shining around you and you're going to walk through that door.
I say, as soon as I hear that, I'm like, God, show me.
Yeah, exactly.
Or shut this up. That's always, because like I said, I also obviously I love the ladies and a lot of these things, like there's things that, they have been said that is on point. Like I remember like Linda was talking about boundaries, that shoes. I think Debbie
definitely several times.
And Debbie, Kathy, they were speaking, even Susie, like peacemaker. like it made so much sense. I'm not going to go about the examples that they said that didn't make sense, but when you're really getting in tune with yourself and then really talking with God and having that talk with Him, when those things happen, it connects, and you're just kind of like, yes, it does. No, it doesn't. And if you don't know, show me, God,
right?
Because God's gonna show up every time. So it's like, So I look at that. It's hard too, because with our minds, we're so like, yeah, don't say that. But at the same time, I just hone in and say, show me, God, because in one sense, it shuts up everything, and it says, all right, Lord, well, this is what I heard. What do you got to say about it? And then I'm not like, because there's been times, and not so much with the ladies here, but just when other people spoke with me, they've said some nonsense. And I've been one to like come out of like prayer and be like, shut up, please, just stop talking. Because some people, they speak out of emotion. Sometimes they're really led by the Spirit. But like,
it's hard to tell, because when the Holy Spirit is moving, it's it reminds me of if you're at church and it's great, awesome, on fire music going, but it's hard to tell if everyone is passionate and crying because of the music or because the Holy Spirit is moving. Everyone's
different too, so it's like you have people who come in and like, you have your churchgoers. You just come in and you're just like, yeah, I like a service, and I want to like, just like, they may be standing there, they could even be jumping around. It's not even the person who's always like very like remote and not anything. It could be someone who they can come in and the musicality can be great and the environment can be great. Because I was talking with someone about it too, like even with like a worship service and a concert. Some people who go to concerts, like just any music, secular, whatever, like they can go to like a country, rap, R&B, like pop. They come over here and they look at church, like, and they're just like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. I've never seen anything before. But they'll go to a concert and do the same thing, not for God. Like, I've seen people, they're at a concert and they're crying, and their hands are up. And
I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen it.
And you see people who are just kind of like talking things, or just kind of like really getting emotional. And that's the thing. Like a lot of people bring to the, probably people have that connection where they bring to the church, but it's only an emotional experience.
Right. It's the music, I think.
It's the music, the talk. Like it's everything it's the things of God, but they don't enter in with God.
Right. It's interesting. Youth groups and stuff have that problem a lot, because they got like, the music is great. I love youth bands, but I can never tell if it's the Holy Spirit causing all the teenagers to repent at that night, or if it's the music is so freaking awesome that they're like, yeah, that message rocks with me. And the next day they're like, no. Like, I don't know how many times I've seen, like, my church had a youth camp.
Yeah.
Every year we'd go up to like a place in PA for 3 days. The cell service was terrible. We'd had so many Bible meetings and things like that, and so many games throughout the whole day. And at least one day out of that 3-day period, there'd be like a night where there was an altar call and people like flooded to the front. And like, I went up one year. I was 13. I technically was saved at that point, I think, but like, God felt like God was calling me forward. I still can't decide if that was like the music, or if it was they were playing "Oh Come to the Altar" at that time too.
That song,
that was the first time I heard it too. But it was one of those things where people were radically changed, and then you saw them 2 months later, and they were the same person, if not worse, than they were before that meeting.
You know what that is? I call that leftover worship. It's like someone listened to a sermon from last year, like, oh man, that sermon from 2020 was great, and I'm just going to expect it to explode with my life, and it's like that radical change is like, it's only transformative if you allow it and walk in it. But if you just let it be for what it is, it is what it is. And people keep thinking like, oh, I just need that one experience with God and I'm going to be good. Like, no, it's a walk. It's a faith walk. Like, we got to keep on going. And it's weird too, because like, I know there's a I actually even heard it from a pastor who was like youth groups and things like that. They're becoming like the biggest show in the circus, because it was just the fact that a lot of people, and this is a thing not of God. A lot of people want to relate to younger people so much that they'll water down the gospel, that they won't be able to do a lot of the things that God is trying to put in them. But that's the real stuff they need, that they take into the real world and they make authentic. But if you want to, but a lot of things now are for show and for entertainment. And they think, oh, we just want to, and I understand we're in a sound bite, like we're in an instant gratification type of culture. So you want to be able to grab people and get them, but like, young people know when it's fake or not. Like we know more than others, because we've been conditioned in certain things, but we still are to a relevance to a degree where we can still and people too. Like I used to. Funny you say that. Like you, like the youth like teams and praise bands. Like I was specifically in one to help get it going. And they can tell when you're fake, or with just people in general, don't have to be even Christians. Like they can tell when you're faking or not, when you're just up there, or just speaking, or just trying to fill in. And some adults do, some adults don't. I actually possibly are more believed by adults than I am by younger people, and I actually like that because it just shows about what happens when you let your mind just kind of get to a certain way, and things like that. But it's like you have those in here, and a lot of people were just saying too on the top of that, like say, oh man, like church is fake. Like you go there and people say this and they go do another thing. Well, in that essence, I'll just say there's fakes in every industry, everything, so it's just kind of like, and then so you have people who just kind of come in, they do their thing. People who have the quote unquote radical change, but it's like there's salvation, we get saved, and there's righteousness where we are working out that faith. So it doesn't always look like that Christ-like, Jesus-like, bring glory, yada 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 thing that that is the goal and which is the effort. But we still have to continue to die to self and do that. And it's like, I don't know, like I feel like people are in it for the when I realize they're in it for the emotional experience, especially if I'm in a group setting, I gotta physically leave and not so much like them, but go off on my own and say, all right, Lord, all this right here is fake.
Yeah.
What's real? That's how I see God as truth bearing. The Bible is a freedom thing. Even though people have used it to twist things, it's not so much that the word is it's the people and their ideas and what they do with the truth to make it false. But it's like, man, it's just huge because like a lot of people want to, they want to come in for the experience and they just don't get it because there'll be many people in the time of when they see God and like, Lord, we did all these things in your name and we were able to do this and cast out demons and I led worship teams and I saved 500, which is funny. I saved 1,000 people for you. Why won't you let me in? And he's going to say, you never knew me.
Right. You let me in the street. I was starving. I was naked.
Yeah.
I was dying and you were like, no.
Right. Yeah.
And then there was the person who was like, yes. And that's honestly one of my biggest fears is that I'm not saved. Because I don't want to be, because like when I wander away or when I'm just like a lot of people are like, even just talking about God now, I'm wondering how fake is my conversation right now when we're talking about God specifically, like religion. How much of this is just me going through the motions because I am saved? Because it's some of it's overthinking, but some of it is also like, does my life really reflect God? Because I'm a very negative person, so when I see myself, I see all the faults. I'm like, I don't do this, I don't do that, so maybe I'm not actually a Christian. And then it's interesting. One of my friends, it's crazy how like we'll start talking sometimes, and it'll be very clearly God's using him to rebuke me for wandering away, and uses that to draw me back, which is great. Because it'll be like, Joseph, what are you doing? Listen to yourself. And then it like opens my eyes completely, and I'm like, oh shoot, I'm sorry. Thank you, God, for this again. But it's interesting. One of his flaws is, for me, it's opposite. Like we strengthen each other.
Right.
For me, nice. I have a hard time seeing, feeling like I'm saved. He doesn't have that problem. I forget what his was. I know it. I know it because it was like the opposite. It was like I was like, I'm strong here while you're weak there, and you are weak. You're strong there while I'm weak here. I know
perfect candidate.
Yeah, it was like, it was interesting because we were talking about it. Like we'd been up late. It was like 11 o'clock at night. We were on a video call for like 2 hours after our Bible men's group had ended over video call. It was just us two. We were talking. We got to the point where we were both like kind of crying and whatnot. And it was like it was a really powerful time because it was like we were both like, we suck as people, but then we were like, no, brother, you don't. And then he was like, no, you don't. And then it was like we were like, we suck. And then we're like, looked at each other like, no, you don't suck. And it was like a mutual like, God made you this way, and this is our strengths, and these are our flaws, and we need to be. And the God, it's like the Holy Spirit was there. And we were like,
the human in each other,
and then like we felt like the Holy Spirit was there. And we were like, after we'd been cried like a tiny bit, and we'd prayed a little bit. It was like, let's go listen to some worship music right now, man. Like that's what we really need to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to note that there are just things sometimes where we're just iron sharpens iron. Like you have things that you're great at, and I'm like, I suck.
Yeah. And
then there's things like you're like, I suck, and I'm like, no. It's interesting to note that like the entire podcast you've been like, no, Joe, I see you as someone who's strong and forging forward, and I see myself as someone who's faltering and falling backwards.
Yeah. And it's funny, it's too, like, I think too, there's a balance to it too. Well, I don't say balance. There's a sake of like, it's a yes and a no to where, even, and I'm saying that from a hard experience of the encouraging, because when you're saying what you're saying, I'm seeing what I'm seeing. So like you're saying from inward, and I'm seeing. So it's like that, but like it's not the fact that you never. It's like if I say, "Oh man, you're hardworking, like you can do this, Joseph." Like, but there's some times where you're lazy. Like, I'm not gonna sit until it's a point to where we're going through something, and we got to strengthen each other's iron, because it's like, but like I am. It's funny too. You were saying sometimes you feel like you're saved, and we know up here, like once we give our lives to Christ, like salvation is 100%. But it's always I pointed when I said up here, I said the mind up here, and I'm pointing to the heart again. But yeah, that was one of the big things. And honestly, even though my faith is, I believe, has been built up and is strong, most days I don't feel like a Christian. I feel like I'm either double-minded, or I'm Jesus' big promoter,
right?
And it's like that's not what it is.
Like it's like, how can I say I'm a Christian but then also want to have some fame and some money?
Yeah.
How can I be pursuing those things if I'm a Christian?
Right.
Like I'm supposed to be pursuing God, or like for me, I have a hard time including God in things I'm talking about, because to me that feels cheesy. That doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel authentic.
Right.
So when people are like, "Praise God, hallelujah, go work, Joseph. Your job is for God. You need to be after Him." I'm like, arm's length. Keep that. Don't. I'm like, it's immediate stonewall. It might be because how my parents raised me and the things that have gone on in my family. It could also just be I have an issue with that and I need to fix that, because very clearly God should be involved in all of this.
I think it's specifically, it's one, what you're going through. Specifically just kind of things are going, and two, you're just a different type of Christian, and that's fine.
Fair enough.
I literally I don't want to say I'm the chameleon of Christianity.
Right.
I'm not, but I don't care for the Christianese. I really, and if anything can be stripped from me, it's that. And if God never is, I realized too, I used to ask, like, God, put me near like seasoned Christians. And a lot of that was just kind of like, cause I wanted to be right next to them and learn from them. And then I do a ministry, I'm around them, but like, no, most of the people I see, they're either unchurched, they don't know God, they know God, and they're still working with their faith and everything like that, which is pretty much almost everyone. But like where they're at is at a, I guess you could say at a lower tier, or just kind of still building. They don't think that they arrived, which is fantastic. That's not the point of it. And it's those, and it's like, Phil, I called you to these people, like. Now the people, glory, brethren, hallelujah. Like that's all good and well if it's real. Which sometimes I'm weird. I'm someone who is for this faith, but I will laugh at people in this faith when they act crazy.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, even if they're genuine themselves and how they are, it's just a personality thing. It's just how I am, and I get to connect with people who are truly spiritually connected, and those who are just cynical, because I am. God has put me in the mold, and that's why I feel it with you too. Like you're Christian a certain way as a Christian, and even as you're thinking, because who you're gonna reach and who you are. Right. It just like we're probably not gonna be around those big those people like and I will even say the ladies at the prayer house, because, and not even for the fact that they're overly. I love that, and I need that for encouragement, and I need that to help. But like when I go to minister, they're usually either aside me, or I'm usually balancing them with certain things. Like it's not so much those who are always strong in the faith, we're always going to go together, because I always crave for, and even at times I crave for those, like the ladies at the prayer house. They're like my ideal people to be around. But they're not those who are going to be with me every single time. They're help. I go back there to to help, to burden, and there's certain things, certain reasons for it. But there's certain people that God has had for me, and it's not in that sake of, and I'm not even saying the ladies at the church, but like even like people who are like the quote unquote overly spiritual, which in one essence they can be more detrimental than someone who doesn't even believe in God.
Right.
Another time, another topic, we can talk about that too. Yeah. But even like like the ladies of the church, ladies at the prayer house, they're great, and I connect with them, and and they are iron sharpens iron. Mm-hmm. Until when I turn back around and talk with other folks I usually am talking with who are believers, they're not like those ladies, who I appreciate. But for those who I talk with, who I help like minister, meaning to serve, like not so much being a preacher, but
Right.
like meaning to serve and really like reach them. And like they're not people who are on I call the caliber of the spiritual, like those ladies are there to like for us to iron shepherd's iron and be with her, but like who I'm called to and even be around with in ministry are not those ladies. Sadly, it's like, spiritually it's like, that kind of sucks. Sometimes I wish I was, but other times it's like, God's like, I didn't call you to that, and even with those who are very overly like, which I think if you're just overly, I guess their term is like not overly religious, but super spiritual is what people
Right.
say. Just get out. You're not really reaching. And I honestly, I really do feel like in some sense that is a lukewarm.
Bible thumpers.
Yeah. No matter how charismatic you are, they could be lukewarm Christians as well, and that actually hurts the church and hurts and people who are not church and who are not of the body. So, but yeah, it's just one of those things like how I am, how I talk. Sometimes I'm talking proper. Sometimes I slang it out. Sometimes it's just like I'm in different mediums and modes, but I'm pretty much, even when I look at like ministry, outreach, missions, things like that, I'm called to the young church. I'm going to be talking to people who don't speak like how we speak biblically, like everything that we said at one time in this hour. Someone's like, what the heck are they talking about? That's who I'm probably going to be ministering to and talking to.
Right.
Like you and I have a heart for the homeless, and not the fact that people who are homeless cannot speak like that or think like that, but like we're going to like brokenness in those who who need that spiritual feeding as well as the physical. And so we are a certain way because we're that's a part of our calling and what we're going to be moving to. So I mean, I if I could do anything, I always love when someone who is not overly spiritual or super spiritual or who is a new believer is around me. I get more energized by that because it's so authentic.
Yeah.
Christianese is what they call it, which I think that word kind of is dumb too, but it's just like that is not surrounded around them. Mm-hmm. And nothing is wrong with like, speaking biblically. That's fine. It's all the other things in between, but it's just very like, vibrant and it's real and it's authentic and it's really just the heart for God. So,
right.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah. I think that's a great place to wrap it up. I mean,
agreed.
We should totally talk about having this become a more consistent thing.
I'm down.
I'm glad because I think there's a lot more we have to talk about. Life continues, so even if it's a week, 2 weeks between each episode, maybe even a month, like I want to be consistent. Yeah. Consistency is key.
Sounds good.
But we have life. Life exists.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we still work at our jobs.
I know, right? For now.
Just finally, do you have any words of advice for people like us who are stuck in our jobs but we need to be able to be content and do our best to not be depressed while we're working? I keep coming like personally just to get this away because I feel like you may or may not have something nice to say, good to say, I should say. For me, it's trying to remind myself that God put me there and I'm working for Him. Mm-hmm. But then I don't know how that looks. Yeah. So I'm like, everyone's like, well, you're working for God. And I'm like, how, what, who?
Yeah.
Yeah. But like just anything you found to be helpful. Cause
I had to find that thing in that thing in the job that wasn't necessarily the job that I was allowed to do that I enjoy. Like you said it yourself. At one of your other jobs, the job you were doing at the cleaning the church, you were able to do a podcast. You were able to listen to podcasts and things like that.
Right.
I get to do that when I'm driving. I purposely did that because I wanted, in my mind, it was like I wanted to listen to the Word. I ended up just doing podcasts as well. So, that's one of the things I kind of look into. I'm able to find that thing in the job or those things in a job that I can do that's not the job that allows me to help me get through the job. Another thing is the connection, is talking with people. It's just to where sometimes it's long. I have to talk with someone. Sometimes it's short. It just helps me relationally. Like, even with like this medium, like if I could say something to somebody and I only have a certain amount of time, what would I do? That gives me like a little bit of like energy. So like when I'm doing that in the job, it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like, let me go talk with someone. How can I, and this is not so much even gospel, it's just the sake of just like vocally and communicate. How can I communicate something in a small time to somebody and make it be impactful and meaningful? Mm-hmm. Like the job helps me with that. And then also where I'm at, it gives me time. It just always think about the negative things of the job. I'm not gonna give you the self-help like, oh, it doesn't exist. It exists. It's why you feel like that. But I would say take that, and just like I was even saying with Joseph, like take that and, let that be a reminder that, after this job, I want to have less of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then also too, of just the things that you just, you crave for, that you just want to change. I would continue to just make those things. I write them out, and I write them out, text them, whatever it is, because I just, that's how I am. I just write the vision and make it plain. But I those things that you want in a job, it's like, oh man, like I really wish, like take those. And I don't know, I'm weird. At certain times, I daydream in my job, just thinking like, yeah, what about this? What if my job was like this? Or what if, what if the passion project was like this? Because like it gets you going and it gets the time going. And then just do my other thing is just do the darn job. You don't have to be the greatest at it, because that's not where you're, called to be. But do that to do a means to an end. You're not doing disrespect to God or your family, whatever. You're simply doing the job and honor it so you can go on. And so when people look at you in your new light, they can be like, yeah, he didn't like it, but he stuck it out. Like just, right. Do what you can in that, and just find the good and the bad, and what you can do. Just remember to represent yourself, and do your best, because of, because that's what you want to leave, like your legacy, like you want to be able to leave that here, and you want to be influential with people. So, that's the things I would do, if that makes any other sense. But yeah, man.
No, yeah, that makes quite a bit of sense, honestly. Thank you, Phil, for joining me. I look forward to the future, whatever God has for us, to not letting God be the reason we don't do anything. And thank you for the encouraging words and advice for everyone else. So until next time, this has been the Wandering Thoughts Podcast. I am your host, have been your host, Joseph Salmieri Jr. Until next time, keep learning, thinking, and exploring.